Whoops, wrong. Hello, Safa. How are you? Hello. It's Monday. I'm gonna pretend that I'm organized and not 15, 17 minutes late to stream today. Because Monday. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. Ghost and I had a very busy weekend this weekend. Good morning, Ghost Pepper. Oh my goodness. I didn't just see you in the kitchen showing me peppers. Pretty okay making coffee and attempting to be awake? Yes, that's how I feel about Monday morning in general. I have my coffee in my Ursula mug. I should actually just hold it up because it's pretty. I got coffee in my Ursula mug, which will hopefully make me feel awake at some point. But I've only had like 2 sips so far. Ghost and I had a very busy weekend. For anyone who doesn't know, we were part of the mega charity event that was organized by Joseph Chilson, Jay Chili, our good friend, the Glizzy King himself. It was a 32-hour stream all together. No one was live for the whole time, but some people tried to stay awake for most of it. I'm looking at you, Jay Chili. It was 27 different streamers. I think we had, how many different time slots did we have this time? I think there was like 6 or 7. Ghost and I did the morning time slot for Saturday Pacific time. So it was 9 a.m. Pacific. I believe it was noon Eastern time. And during our segment, we raised $540 for charity, and across the whole charity, we raised over $3,000 for Doctors Without Borders, aka Médecins Sans Frontières. So very happy about that because it's a charity that's near and dear to both of our hearts. And it was great. It was amazing. It was such a fantastic experience, but it's tiring. Because, you know, when we weren't streaming, we were hanging out with the other streamers, supporting and doing our donations. So I feel like I need another weekend to catch up from this weekend. That mug is sweet. Thank you. Ursula is my favorite. And I found they did like a whole series of these mugs. Most of them were the princesses. And I tried to find a Maleficent one too, but I don't think they ever did Maleficent in this style. But my two favorite villains of all time are Ursula and Maleficent, and then sort of coming in third is Hades from Hercules, because dang. So shout out to Twitch for deciding not to notify me when people go live. No, you know, sometimes they're delayed. I've been in people's streams for like 10 minutes and then gotten the notification that they went live, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm here. Also, hello, Lomi, how are you? How was your weekend? Right? Hades was just amazing. I love that his hair would change when he got angry. Like, such the best. Basically, you like all the blue purple ones? I guess I do. I mean, Maleficent changes into a dragon, so how can I not love her? But yeah, I guess I didn't specifically pick the blue-purple ones. They just happen to be the most amazing. So yeah. I can't stop laughing now, because now that you say, I never realized that, but now that you say it, I'm like, I guess I have a villain aesthetic. Oh my goodness. So yeah, that's how we spent our weekend, was doing a charity stream, and it was great. Hey Kiki, hey Sapphic Panic. It has been a while. So yeah, we did that this weekend, and it was great, but of course we're super tired. Ghost even canceled his stream yesterday because we just needed some time to recover from all the manic energy of just being crazy on stream to raise money for charity. And once again, we're just gobsmacked by how amazing this community is. The Twitch community is one of the most generous, just amazing communities I've ever been a part of. Every time we do one of these events, we think, you know, oh, maybe we'll raise $100 or so. and we raise $100 within like the first 10 minutes, and then we're like, holy shit, what are we gonna do for the rest of these 4 hours? So yeah, it's amazing. Anyone who was at the event over the weekend, you're amazing. And yeah, it was great. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention, this is where we find out that I'm actually really bad at, advertising my own stuff, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I have a book out today. Just dropped this morning, well, midnight actually. The final book in the Eternity's Empire series. We made this cover on stream. It is live. You can buy it now. The whole series is complete. I'm just gonna hit the new release command because it should be on there. So if you want to check out the Eternity's Empire series, you can now read all 8 books without stopping. They all exist. Thank you. It's amazing. I started this series in, I think, 2016. I always look back at like where I started something when I do like my final release notice, and I was like, wow, I worked on this book for 8 years. I can't believe it's done either, but it is done. The final words are, it's a little bit surreal, that this is a thing. Also, if you haven't seen my Eternity's Empire series and you're like on the fence about whether or not you want to check it out, on Friday, the first book, The Light of Eternity, is going to go free. I have a promo scheduled this weekend. So this weekend you can pop back over to my Amazon page and get The Light of Eternity for free. I won't be streaming, but I will try to remind people in the Discord if you're in the Discord. Nina and Kittens, hello, how are you? I need to catch up on chat because I have been missing so much. Kiki, how are you? What is up? I got writing to do, want to have something to submit to the next Usurper Kings on-stream edit. Good luck! I tuned in for one of those recently, and they're super awesome. So I'd love to hang out and hear your book be edited. Or I'm sure the whole book won't be edited on stream. Mondays are hard. Doing okay, rough weekend because I injured my shoulder. No, oh no. Lomi, what did you do? I hope you're okay. Whatever happened, I hope you're okay. This book comes out on the 9th and it's not ready. Oh no, which book is it? Is it is it Paragon of Water? That was my microphone falling over. I'm so sorry. I hope it didn't make a super loud sound. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. What is this day? Book drop woot? Yes! Not mic drop woot, but book drop woot. You've gotten much further than most. Well done. Thank you. I still remember back when I first started writing, and Twitch was mostly just for games, and I wish like we had the type of community we have now back then, because there were so many days where I just sat at my computer and I wanted so badly to write, and I just couldn't, right? And that was, I think, 2000, I want to say 2009, 2010. It was a long while ago. And it was so hard just to find the discipline and the structure and the will to write. So I always remind myself of that when I drop a book, even if only one person buys it. I've come a long way from when I was just sort of banging my head against the keyboard, not being able to get words on a page. So it feels good, and I do try to stop and celebrate a little bit, because I know we as writers are always on to the next thing, and always on to the next book, and always planning the next thing. I'm planning to start planning a new series tomorrow on stream, but I do try to take a hot moment and just be like, I did this thing. This was just nebulous thoughts in the void, and I put them on a page, and I try to at least be, to celebrate that, because it isn't easy. Nina and Kittens, how are you? What is up? How was your weekend? Grabbing sausages from the air dryer. That sounds amazing. Less than a book, but not lesser. Glorious flash fiction. Ooh, I'm so bad at flash fiction, so I have huge admiration for everyone who can write it, because if I try to write something like that, it turns into 10 books. I'm bad at telling my worlds and stories. No. I wish I knew what I did. Oh no, was it one of those I'm old, I raised my arm, and now I'm broken kind of things. The joy of hypermobile joints is that sometimes I don't even know until it starts to hurt, and then I have no clue. Oh no! Oh yeah, this is your side project. Paragon of Water isn't until November. No worries, no worries. I remember now, I think I saw in your last newsletter that you were mentioning that one, Lomi. I figured you might have meant air fryer, but I also wasn't sure if you meant like dehydrator. Man, sausages in the air fryer, that's such a good idea. I don't think we've tried that. Been in such a writing slump and just trying to get back into any project. Oh no, that is the worst, Nina. I know that feeling all too well. I would say just see if you can get any words out, even if it's just like a random short or like a writing prompt or just like something that randomly pops into your head. Sometimes once you can get any words out, you can then start to focus them, but sometimes you just got to shake it all free and just write whatever. Also, don't be afraid. I say this on stream a lot, but don't be afraid to write something that seems like it's bad. Don't be afraid to write what feels like horrible words. The words that first hit the page, especially if you're in your writing slump, they don't have to be good words. Like, any words is better than no words. And I think we sometimes get really caught up in, like, we writers in general get caught up in, if it's not a good sentence, then I shouldn't write it. Like, let it be garbage. Let it just be word puke and just write it just to get words flowing from your head to your fingers again. And eventually you'll get back into that groove where it feels like you're writing things that are good and coherent again, but sometimes they just have to be words, right? And if you delete them all afterwards and nobody ever sees them, that's okay. It's just to get yourself started again, right? Where the heck did air dryer come from? Hey, sometimes our fingers have minds of their own. Takes 14 minutes from frozen unattended. Ooh, nice. Just here to say hi. Hey, Halo Banshee. Make sure you take care of yourself. Hopefully we'll be done with the shopping and home before you end the stream. Good luck with the shopping, Halo. I feel like that's a much harder task than what I'm going to be doing. Let's have a stretch! Because Halo is here to take care of us. Currently working on revising a piece from a year ago. Nice! I often put my stuff on a shelf for a while. After I finish a draft, I try to like go and work on something else for 6 months to a year just so that I can look at it fresh. And let me do a quick hydrate. Used to care so little and just have words, and now I'm like, is it perfect? It's so hard sometimes to turn off your inner editor. And like, I know we talk about this a lot as writers, but I don't think non-writers understand like how crazy it can be sometimes. Like, sometimes you sit down in the morning and you write a scene and you love it, and then you walk away for 5 minutes and think about it and you're like, wait, is it actually horrible? Did I actually write anything I like today? And then if you come back and try to read it, sometimes your mind is so filled with the question of, is this any good, that you can't really objectively tell if it's any good. So I have this policy of write something and then sort of shove it onto the shelf for a while and try not to look at it until I can look at it again objectively, right? Because if you come back to that scene in a month or 2 months, what you might find is that it actually is great, and you'll be like, why did I think this was so terrible? I have literally left notes for myself on novels saying, this scene is garbage, you need to fix it. And then a year later, I go to do my editing notes, and I'm like, what was I talking about? This is fine. There's nothing wrong with this scene. What was I thinking? So it's so hard to turn off that voice of doubt with every sentence sometimes, or every paragraph. So that's why I say, like, especially if you're in a slump, just put words down, and if they feel bad at the time, just say, yeah, maybe this isn't the best sentence, but at least I wrote it, right? When I hear one more person say writing books is easy, if I had time, I would do it. I had people in my life who told me that. I know, right? Like, I think people get this idea of writers that we like sit at the pool and sip martinis all day and just words just magically float onto the paper or something. And it's like, there are so many days, like I have sat down at the computer and done, 2 writing sprints and then looked at what I wrote and been like, I can't use this, and just completely started over. It's, and there are days where it feels like every word is pulling a tooth, or it just, even if you know sometimes what you want to write, it just won't happen some days. So yeah, anyone who's like writing a book is easy, I just want to punch them. I'm really enjoying it. I've come a long way in a year. If you'd like to have a look at my before after, I can of course send it through. Yeah, there's a spot in the Discord as well for anyone who wants to share links, or even there's a seeking feedback section now too for anyone who's specifically looking for feedback on anything. We're sort of developing the writing section of the Discord as we go. So as people make suggestions and stuff, we get more and more stuff going on in there. People think writing a book works like The Sims. Sit down, write for a day and publish. Instant cash. Right? I wish it worked that way. I wish it worked like in The Sims. I have about 500 words before after the beginning of the story from a year ago, followed by the rewrite. Ooh, I love to see stuff like that. Yeah, go ahead and post it in the Discord if you want. Sapphic, we'd love to take a look at it. Uh-oh, that's a bot. Make sure I don't accidentally ban the wrong. One time I was in a friend's stream and the chat was moving really fast, and one of the mods was trying to get rid of a bot and she accidentally banned me. So I'm always super careful when bots pop up. I'm like, make sure I ban the right account. Yeah, let me just pull up the Discord link just for anyone who's not in there. It is called the Pepper Patch. Because I share the Discord with my husband. We're in like so many Discords that I was like, let's just have one combined one. Feel free to use any of the spaces. You're not just confined to the writing area, but we do have an area that is specifically like for writing. We have a specific writing memes area and like a writing inspiration area and all that kind of stuff. So, and if anyone has any other things that you'd like us to add to the library section, let me know, because we're just sort of developing it as we go. It's easier to just keep it all in one place, right? And honestly, I feel bad because I'm actually in more Discords than I can keep up with. So I try to like pop in and see what's going on with all my friends and stuff, but I just can't. There are a select number of Discords that I can actually keep up with on a day-to-day basis. So also, if you're in like a million Discords and you're looking at the link and are like, I can't be in another Discord server, I get it. I'm also on Twitter. I don't have a command for that, but I am Megan_Cutler on Twitter. If you want to follow me on there and send me links on there, or like talk at me on there if that's easier for you, I 100% get it, because it's so easy to be in like 20 Discords. Awesome, Sapphic. I'll check that out after the stream. Yeah, so this happened. It's out. I'm not going to leave it on the screen the whole time because I feel bad advertising too much. But yeah, I wrote 8 books and they're out and it's amazing and I'm so happy. But today we're working on, why do I sound so sniffly all of a sudden? How much of it's Monday and how much of it is the weather? Today we're working on my Aruvalia Chronicles series. We're actually working on the first book. If anyone was around last week, I actually read the first, I think it was 6 or so chapters on stream. I do my late pass edits out loud so that I can hear how my writing is striking my ear. So that's what we're doing today. I will actually be reading out loud. I will turn on writing sprints for anyone who wants to mute me and just have the sprint in the background, or for anyone who can tune me out and do the sprint. I will absolutely do that. Today is the last day I'm going to be reading out loud. Tomorrow I'm actually going to be starting a brand new project. I promised I would do all the world building on stream, so we're going to be starting that tomorrow afternoon. Just a heads up, there will be some stumbling over words because my tongue doesn't like it when I read out loud. So I can read flawlessly in my head, but sometimes I don't even read the words that are on the page. So expect a little bit of muttering and laughing at myself as I read the words wrong. Also, this is a working draft, so I may repeat parts sometimes, especially if I have to make changes just to make sure that the flow is going well. again, if you guys want to mute me and just use the sprints, that's fine. But for anyone who's interested in the story, you'll get to hear a little bit of it, which is the cool thing about doing this on stream. And I have been uploading the VODs of the reading onto YouTube. Since it's the first book, there's not really spoilers. So for anyone who missed it and would like to check that out, it's preserved on YouTube. And I actually posted the first video this morning. Let me actually just get the quick link to my YouTube channel. You should be able to find it there if you want. No pressure, obviously. It's just my VODs and stuff. But if you're interested in the beginning of the story, that's where you can find it. Pie, hello! Tickles your nose with a feather. Ah, that's why I'm so sniffly. Pie, how are you? What are you up to today? I'm always hyped to get a live react, but I won't push you. Yeah, unfortunately, I have a lot going on this week, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to keep to my Twitch schedule. It was very tentative. I posted a note saying it was very tentative when I posted it on the Discord. So I unfortunately probably won't be able to do a live react, but if we get through the chapters that I have to do and we have extra time, then we'll see. Been chilling and being bored all day. Was it your day off, Pie? I'm so glad you're uploading the VOD so I can watch them later. I gotta get some sprint time. I gotta get some sprints in here. I won't get this book done in time, but I'll lurk. Yeah, no problem. I get it. I also know that there were some people who were interested in hearing me read the start of the story, and oh my gosh, it sounds like Ghost is just like tearing apart the cupboards in the kitchen. What the heck? He's probably making some food. Yeah, I know there were some people who expressed an interest in hearing it who just weren't able to be around at the time when I do it, because these are my work hours, right? So I know that other people are working jobs that they can't necessarily turn on the stream during. So I don't upload all my VODs because some of them have spoilers in them, but these don't. So that's the cool thing about it. Pringles. Pie. Ghost is looking for them Pringles. He ain't gonna find any. We're out. Don't let Ghost know I've got them. Your secret's safe with me, Pie. Vinyl, hello. How are you? What is up? I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever. Our schedules have been so crazy. I'm considering doing a monthly event called Fumey Fun Friday where I drink hard liquor and spray paint indoors with proper ventilation. That sounds amazing. Would you be like planning things that you were going to spray paint, like murals, or would you just kind of do whatever comes out of you at the time? Either way, that would be awesome. I love watching other people do art and stuff on streams, especially like, I don't know the first thing about spray painting, but I feel like that would be super chill to watch. One other thing I guess I should mention, because it's down below where the words are. You guys might notice the new chairs for Ghost and Striker. Ghost and I are... Woof! Hello! How are you? How long have you been lurking? You might notice below the writing there's a little bar. New chairs for Ghost and Striker. My husband and I are raising money for some new chairs. We did have some pretty big house expenses hit us in the early summer with our AC dying and all that, but we desperately need new chairs. Ghosts is held together by duct tape, and really they're kind of cheap, uncomfortable chairs to begin with. So we want to get some really nice, actual, like, back support ergonomic chairs, especially me, since I sit in mine for so long. So we do have, I'll bring it up, we have this list of rewards that we can unlock. We've already unlocked the tipsy chat. This is what made me think of it, was the hard liquor comment. Where I will be, instead of drinking coffee and chatting with you guys, I will be drinking wine and chatting with you guys. And we'll see how tipsy I get and how fun that is. So we've already unlocked that. We're working on a hot sauce stream for Ghost. He will be cooking hot sauce in the kitchen. And if we hit 300, we will do a divorce court brunch stream, which is where we will eat brunch. Ghost might hide, but we'll eat brunch on stream and chat with everyone. And if we get to 600, we'll upgrade that to a 12-hour divorce court stream. We won't eat brunch the whole time, I promise, but we will do a bunch of other things on the stream. So here's a look at all the things that can be unlocked. No pressure, obviously. We understand everyone has to take care of themselves first, but if you'd like to pitch in, just hit the divorce command and it will bring up the link. It's basically just ghost tip jar. That is what will make the bar move. Shugraz, hello, how are you? Shugraz, how long have you been lurking? I'm a spray artist. I usually have an idea what I want to paint beforehand. Awesome. I don't know the first thing about spray paint, but I love how it looks. So we actually have a big white fence outside, and I keep thinking it would be super awesome to just hire a local spray paint artist to just do a mural on it or something, like whatever, because it's just this giant canvas. But we haven't really been able to do that since pandemic and all. But it's still kicking around. It's still an idea kicking around in there. It'd be really awesome. The emote combo looks bad on stream. I mean, that's the point, Pi. It's supposed to look bad. People have done that emote combo many, many times, Pi. You're totally fine. Don't worry. Been talking for like 5 minutes. All I saw was you saying Ghost is looking for Pringles. I think we have different ideas of you talking, Woof. Just got here a few minutes ago. I need you to both eat for 12 hours straight. I don't think that would be very healthy. But, I mean, we'll probably have snacks. So we won't starve on the 12-hour stream. I mean, we'll eat as needed. Oops, the top part of this is missing. Mukbang stream, let's go. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Woof is here, and he's talking for realsies. One word is technically talking. All right, if you're gonna get technical on me, Woof. But then do emotes count as talking? Because they're technically not words. They're just pictures. Okay, so for anybody who missed, I'm going to get started because otherwise we'll never start. But for anyone who missed the first part of the story, I'll do a little bit of a catch up. So Aruvalia Chronicles is a high fantasy, epic fantasy story that takes place in a modern day world, kind of like if Middle Earth had made it to today's time period. So we basically have all your traditional fantasy races. We have elves, we have dwarves, we have centaurs, fairies, all that. But they're running around essentially in New York City. You can walk down to the local Starbucks and, or the local Starbucks equivalent, and get some magic shots in your drink if you want a shot of courage or charm or whatever. Stuff like that. Magic is sort of woven into the day-to-day. The internet is run by fairies. And so that's sort of the setting that we're working with. The story starts with Clara, who has a nightmare that her face changes into someone else's face. And when she wakes up, she realizes that it was not a dream. She is, in fact, wearing the wrong face. And everyone is calling her by the wrong name and insisting that she was in a coma that she has just woken up from. But in her dreams, she speaks to a voice who tells her that she needs to find a man named Dahmer Lorcast because he can help her get home. With the help of this mysterious voice, she is able to use magic, which is unknown to her since she comes from our world. She is able to use magic to escape the hospital where she is under the care of a group of doctors and nurses. The hospital is called St. Blisbane's because that will be mentioned in this chapter. And she runs toward a local disaster in order to find Dahmerin, who she knows will probably be dealing with the situation. She comes upon him fighting a giant tree monster the size of Godzilla, which he eventually sets on fire using his channeling ability. He's not a mage, but he channels energy through his swords. And after the battle, he tells her that he is willing to help her, but he kind of needs to figure out what's going on with her first. So he takes her to an apartment, which is the apartment of his ex-boyfriend, Kirith, where she can rest and be safe. But when the apartment's owner comes home, there is a small amount of confrontation between Kirith and Domran, as they did used to date, and it didn't end well. And so now we're sort of starting with the morning, and that is where we are in the story. I can talk with emotes only. I mean, I guess you can on Twitch. Oh my gosh, the eye mouth eye combo looks a little cursed by they're like pictograms, images that represent words, hieroglyphs. I mean, I'll give it to you for now, mostly because I got work to do, so I can't get into the pedantic arguments today. Vinyl, how are you? What are you up to? Like I said, I feel like I haven't talked to you in ages. I hope you're doing well. I know Ghost missed his usual stream with Kali this week because we were recovering from the charity drive. All right, I just remembered, in addition to opening this, I need to open, so this is a late draft edit. This has already been through my beta readers, so I just need to quick open my beta readers notes here. So I know what all they marked for needing changed. Let me turn off formatting because I don't need to see the formatting markup. Just chilling this morning, but I do need to do some admin work soon. Good luck. I hope it is quick and easy. And if it's not quick, that it's definitely easy. Sorry, just trying to find where I left off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the sprint timer, and then I'm going to go through the chapter, which is usually pretty quick, and see what all mistakes my my beta readers found, and then I'm going to start reading it out loud. So I apologize in advance, like I said, if I trip over my words a bit. It is Monday morning, so that's sure to be a bit interesting. Let's see. Let's start 20-minute timer for anyone who is doing writing sprints. Good luck. Let those words flow. And I'm going to check. I always start with how many words. That looked weird on my screen, like it wasn't actually selecting the whole thing. I'm going to start with 2,890 words. And I'm just gonna hide the camera for a second while I blow my nose, since I'm apparently super sniffly. Leader, hello, how are you? What is up, my friend? Why are you lost today? So right off the bat, I have misspelled my own made-up name. This is one of those cases where I don't exactly know what I originally was trying to say, so I need to figure it out. The door slid into hidden pockets. Niches. Just woke up like 50 minutes ago, then took a shower, and now I'm here. That sounds like pretty much my morning too, leader. Although I know it's afternoon where you are. Is it? Yeah. It'd be afternoon. Theoretically. Ooh, that was it. That was the only note that I had for this chapter. Nice. I woke up at 1 p.m. too. Yesterday, Shagraz? Aren't you on Pacific time, Shagraz? Hey, I'm not judging anyone for waking up later. I woke up at 7:45 and I would rather have not woken up at 7:45. Or am I? You'll never know. I'm pretty sure I know because Flutter met you. Flutter knows where you are. Though I guess you don't necessarily have to be there right now. Maybe you're visiting somebody. Or did she? I mean, she met someone who called themselves Shagraz, so... We looked at a property about 1.5 hours north of you. We're considering moving there. You'd be so close! You'd be so close to us! It would be so much easier to visit. We could do day trips all the time. That would be amazing. I don't know if this is the panic that you wanted, but it's the panic that you're getting. Incidentally, if you need any, if you end up buying and moving there, let us know if you need any help. Perfectly happy to help out. That would be so awesome. You'd be so much closer to us. It'd be so great. Good luck. I know that buying a house is hard, and stressful. So if you decide to go for it, fingers and toes crossed that everything moves smoothly for you. And if you need to be like closer to the house or something for any goings on, let us know. We have a room always ready. If you need help moving, don't ask me. I hate moving. Shagraz, I feel that. You can only make me so jealous. Look, I wouldn't be sad about having Vinyl and Collie closer. We could do more regular in-person D&D. It's still in the early stages, so many moving parts. Yes, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. No pressure, obviously. We know you're not going to choose a place based on proximity to us, but it would be pretty cool. It might be the worst thing ever. That or Vinyl's face. Shagraz! What? Kiki, we're doing pretty good. Just trying to wake up on Monday. How are you? What are you up to? Let me pop AFK 1 second to reheat my coffee, and then I'm going to start reading out loud. I promise. Vinyl, is the entire family going or just you and Collie? The whole fam. Nice. I assume, would it be bigger than your current place? You don't have to answer these questions, but I assume it would be like bigger than where you guys are right now. Hang on. I'll be back. I'm back. working and hopefully get some writing done. Good luck, Kiki. I'm going to be running sprints even though I'm reading out loud. So anyone who wants to use them, it would be a Business Plus residence. There's a house, a cottage, a cabin, and a small B&B. Oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. I can understand why that is stressful though. To be essentially buying a business. Buying a house is hard enough when it's just a house. So, I can see why there's a lot to consider there. Good luck with it. Like, if it feels like the right place and you end up wanting it, I hope that it goes smoothly for you. Just realized one of my current favorite songs fits this one project so well. Nice! Oh, I love that when that happens. I've been building the playlist for this project. All right, I'm gonna start reading. So get your comfies and let's see how this goes. Chapter 9 is called 3 Lines of Description and a Vague Thread, which is one of my favorite titles for a chapter. I've been cleaning my room because I'm redoing it. Oh, nice, Kiki. What are you planning on doing to it? Is it just a refresh of paint? Are you changing walls or anything? I got you, Megan. Thanks, Shagraz. Clara woke slowly, a luxury that hadn't been afforded her since this crazy ordeal began. Mornings in St. Blisbane started early, usually with the nurses turning on the light and chatting her ear off while they made their morning rounds. Clara had never been much of a morning person, and back home See, I'm doing it already. Clara had never been much of a morning person, and back home they at least included coffee. The "at" is missing. Look at that. No one caught it. That's why I stumbled over it. My goodness, children, behave. It's story time, behave. Clara woke slowly, a luxury that hadn't been afforded her since this crazy ordeal began. Mornings in St. Blisbane started early, usually with the nurses turning on the light and chatting her ear off while they made their morning rounds. Clara had never been much of a morning person, and back home they at least included coffee. The nurses at St. Blisbane's insisted she was too young for the stuff, though Jamilda had been persuaded to sneak her the occasional latte. Being allowed to stay still for several long minutes after her consciousness drifted back to the surface reassured her she had no immediate concerns. Her bed was big and comfortable. The room was drenched in pleasant shadows, and soft voices drifted through the door from the room beyond. Clara instantly recognized Dameron's voice, though she couldn't make out what he was saying. She was somewhat disappointed to find that he hadn't kept vigilant watch over her all night, but of course he had other duties. He did say this apartment belonged to his ex-boyfriend, and he might have to drop everything if another of those elemental creatures attacked. Drawing a deep breath, Clara rolled onto her other side and curled deeper beneath the covers, determined to make the most of this quiet moment before everything exploded in her face again. For the first time in recent memory, she hadn't dreamed at all, merely drifted through oblivion until her mind and body returned to equal footing. It was oddly refreshing, though it didn't ease the terror of her situation. At least she managed to find Dameron. He put her one step closer to home, or regaining her sanity. She didn't care anymore what turned out to be the truth, she just wanted to feel normal again. It was exhausting to spend every hour of every day in a haze of half-panic, never sure if anything she said or did was even reasonable. Sighing softly, Clara released her warm cocoon and slid out from under the covers. Her brain was awake now, and she had no way to turn it off. Remembering yesterday set her heart pounding in her chest, and besides, her bladder insisted it was time to start the day. She paused to run her toes through the soft carpet at the base of the bed, gratified to be free of the hospital and its constant antiseptic reek. Then she padded to the door, pausing when a fresh round of conversation drifted through. From the looks of the lobby, Clara guessed this building was old. The walls seemed thick, especially since most of the doors slid into hidden pockets, but the doors were thin, probably due to their narrow niches. Now that she was close, she could hear every word spoken in the living room, and the first sentence turned her blood to ice. There should be a comma there. Maybe not. This happens a lot, too. I'm gonna leave it. Shagraz, is that for me? Is that middle finger for me? Excuse me. Imagine trying to tell me and Show to behave. So that's what it takes to unite the two of you as a common enemy. As throwing some things out that I didn't know I had. I know what that's like. Every time we move, we do a purge. From the looks of the lobby, Clara guessed this building was old. The walls seemed thick, especially since most of the doors slid into hidden pockets. But the doors were thin, probably due to their narrow niches. Now that she was close, she could hear every word spoken in the living room, and the first sentence turned her blood to ice. How long have you worked for St. Blisbane's? Domerin spoke the question, but it indicated unwelcome company, at least for Clara. They really did send people looking for me, and in the span of a single night, they caught up with her. Clara's mind raced as quickly as her heart. She forgot the prior urgency expressed by her bladder and began pacing beside the door. Her arms shook and her knees trembled, threatening to buckle beneath her. There was only one exit to this room. She couldn't even get to the bathroom without being seen. Oh my goodness, EEC Books rated with 8. Hello. Welcome to the stream. More words. Hello, author goddess. How are you? More secrets. Yes. Sailing Ocelot. Hello. How are you? 1 second here. Let me get you a shout out. Whoops. ECC Books. Did I say EEC? I wouldn't be surprised. It's Monday morning. I'm still working through the coffee. ECC Books, hello. Thank you so much for the raid. How are you? What were you working on stream today? We're doing a late pass edit, so we are reading out loud. We do have the sprint timer running for anyone who wants to use it. And if I'm talking too much and you need to mute me, please feel free. Congrats on the release. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's the final book in the series. I guess I should pop it up. I guess I should pop it up while we're talking about it. The final book in my Eternity's Empire series dropped today. If you are interested and want to check it out, hit the exclamation new release command. It will pull up the link. I was on top of things this morning and actually remembered to update that command. This is basically my Magical Girls in Space series. So if you liked Sailor Moon, you will definitely like these books. And it's done now. The whole series is out. You can read the whole thing beginning to end without having to wait in between. So thank you. I'm super excited. And kind of still in denial a little bit that it's actually done. So yeah, thank you guys. What are you guys up to today? What were you working on stream? I think I said that already, but it's Monday. I'm on repeat mode. I'm going to resume reading. We're just reading through the first book in my Aruvalia Chronicles series. So I'm doing my late pass edits out loud so I can actually hear what everything sounds like. But feel free to keep talking in the chat because I check when I get to the bottom of a page. How long have you worked for St. Blisbane's? Domerin spoke the question, but it indicated unwelcome company, at least for Clara. They really did send people looking for me, and in the span of a single night, they caught up with her. Clara's mind raced as quickly as her heart. She forgot the prior urgency expressed by her bladder and began pacing beside the door. Her arms shook and her knees trembled, threatening to buckle beneath her. There was only one exit to this room. She couldn't even get to the bathroom without being seen, let alone the front door. Could the mysterious lurker in the back of her mind magic her free of this room the same way it helped her escape the hospital? There were windows beside the bed, so the room was obviously located on an outside wall. But they were several stories up. Would using the magic tunnel drop her to her death? Hush, the dry voice hissed in the back of her mind, drawing her to a halt. Give Domerin a chance to work. Clara pursed her lips. Her hammering heart felt like a drill trying to bore its way free of her chest, and the shaky sensation still occupied her limbs. But the voice made a good point. Domerin seemed pretty sincere when he talked to her, not the kind of person who broke his promises, and he had pledged to keep anything bad from happening. Getting dragged back to St. Blisbane's would be pretty bad for her. Calmed, if not soothed, Clara returned to the door. She thought about pressing her ear to it, but it might be better if she knew everything going on outside, in case she needed to make a run for it. Pressing her finger into the niche that served as a doorknob, she inched the door open until she could glimpse the room beyond. Kith's apartment didn't seem to have an actual hallway, just one giant living room with doors leading off of it. Doors leading off it. There's no off there. Peter, hello. How are you? Thank you so much for 7 months. I can't believe it. Ermagerd, Mergen, Servant Mirths. How are you, Peter? Has it cooled down in your neck of the woods? I hope so. Where did I stop? Calmed, if not soothed, Clara returned to the door. She thought about pressing her ear to it, but it might be better if she knew everything going on outside, in case she needed to make a run for it. Pressing her finger into the niche that served as a doorknob, she inched the door open until she could glimpse the room beyond. Kith's apartment didn't seem to have an actual hallway, just one giant living room with doors leading off it. His couch was situated to create the illusion of a corridor, however, giving Clara a clear run to the door, if she needed it. Two men in security uniforms sat on the couch, which put their backs to Clara's location. If she was careful, they wouldn't notice her. This encouraged her to slide the door open just a little further, allowing her to get a better view of the meeting. Dahmerin sat in a chair on the far side of the room. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes were keen, scanning the newcomers with the same thorough intensity they used on her the day before. A fourth man stood in the doorway to the kitchen. His arms were crossed in front of his chest, and his back was pressed to the front of the hexagonal doorway. I'm missing another comma. There's your emote explosion, Peter. So sleepy, but okay. It's so cold today, it's raining and miserable. I mean, after the heat, I'm sure it's nice. I'm doing pretty good. It's Monday, so I'm a little groggy, but I'm doing okay, waking up a bit. Put a book out today, so I'm excited about that. Dahmerin sat in a chair on the far side of the room. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes were keen, scanning the newcomers with the same thorough intensity they used on her the day before. A fourth man stood in the doorway to the kitchen. His arms were crossed in front of his chest, and his back was pressed to the front of the hexagonal doorway. His blonde hair fell about his shoulders in a cascade of curls, and his green eyes were narrowed with annoyance. Only a few years, one of the security men answered, drawing Clara's focus back to the couch's occupants. Given their specialization, they don't have much need for outside security. Dahmerin made a soft sound that Clara still didn't know how to translate. Why not contact the city guard? The hospital staff already have, of course, the second security guard reassured, but they aren't really equipped to handle a large-scale investigation after yesterday's incident. Plus, the patient in question is a minor, the first guard added, lifting one hand to emphasize the point. That makes locating her slightly more urgent, and there are concerns she might cause harm to herself or others. Clara's stomach twisted. Were they trying to convince Dahmerin she was dangerous? Her eyes shot in his direction. The dark-skinned elf may as well have been carved from stone. His expression indicated nothing about what he thought, though Clara caught a hint of skepticism in his dark eyes. "What makes you think this kid is dangerous?" he asked, his tone casual, almost bored. "She ran, didn't she?" the second guard replied. "Plenty of people without malicious intent run away from figures of authority," Dahmerin replied, sounding insulted by the insinuation. "Besides, she ran away from a hospital, not a prison." The guards exchanged a glance, perhaps realizing they weren't gaining any ground. Clara shrank behind the doorframe, terrified a stray look in her direction would reveal her eavesdropping. But the exchange lasted only a moment, then both men turned back toward Dahmerin. "What can you tell me about your missing patient?" Dahmerin asked before either had a chance to speak. He almost seemed to exude authority as he leaned forward, fixing each man with an expectant glance. "If you want my help recovering her, you'll need to give me more than 3 lines of description and a vague threat," he added, a statement that eerily mirrored what he told Clara on the drive here. After a moment of hesitation, one of the men drew a deep breath and released it slowly. "Well, I suppose that's fair, given how the division works." Then he turned and nodded to his companion. The second man reached into a jacket pocket. Clara could only tell because she saw the folds of fabric unfurl over one of his shoulders. A moment later, Dahmerin leaned forward and grabbed a manila folder. He peered at it, pursed his lips, then flipped it open. Rather than absorb the information offered to him, Dahmerin flipped through the files, skimming each one rapidly. Then he settled back in his chair and tucked the folder beside him. "According to this, you're looking for a kid named Jennifer Carter. The one who approached me said her name was Clara Sanderson. How do you know this isn't a case of mistaken identity?" This time, Clara thought something lurked beneath Dahmerin's casual tone. A hint of warning, perhaps, or a demand for honesty. Either way, it must have hit its mark. One of the security guards leaned forward. "Look, Mr. Lorcas, Jennifer, or Clara, whatever you want to call her, she's sick. She doesn't know what's real anymore. That's why the hospital staff are so worried about her and what she might do. According to your files, she has Sparis Jalara. That might make a person slow and a little spacey, but it's never made anyone lose track of reality, not to the extent that they rewrite it. That's true, the guard speaking sounded near to the end of his patience. That's not what that actually says, lol. These first Wednesdays of the week are rough. Indeed. Yeah, the last 2 Wednesdays of the week are a lot more fun, I would think. According to your files, she has Ferris Gelara. That might make a person slow and a little spacey, but it's never made anyone lose track of reality, not to the extent that they rewrite it. That's true, the guard speaking sounded near the end of his patience. But if you read a little further, you'll see that she has a new form of Ferris Gelara. We're not sure yet if it's a 4th stage or the result of some experimental treatment, but that seems to be the cause of her disorientation. I saw that, Dameron replied, unimpressed. And someone less familiar with the side effects of Ferris Gelara might consider your story perfectly acceptable. But I know Ferris Gelara better than most. The first thing it does is rewrite your biorhythms. People with Ferris Gelara don't sleep 8 hours a night. They only need 2 or 3 hours of regular rest to get the same benefits of a full night's sleep. And according to the nurse's chart stapled to the back of the coma report, your patient has been observed sleeping 7 to 8 hours every night since she emerged from the coma. The barest hint of a smug smile brushed Dameron's lips, and Clara allowed herself to mirror it. He must be some kind of speed reader if he picked that up with a casual glance. Then again, he clearly investigated odd cases on a regular basis. He must have learned what to look for, and it sounded like he knew a lot about this odd disease. It could be a result of the treatment, one of the guards insisted, raising both hands as if in surrender. We aren't doctors, Mr. Lorcas. We only have the information the hospital staff provided. But we have no reason to believe the doctors and nurses entrusted with the child's care would lie about her situation. I'm going to restart the sprint timer for anyone who's using it. Just FYI. Wednesdays are okay as Wednesdays go. The actual Wednesdays, I think, are not as popular, but people seem to enjoy Wednesday or the final weekday Wednesday before the weekend Wednesday. That's true. The final weekday Wednesday is pretty good, usually. Because it means the weekend Wednesdays are here. There's Wednesday lore, my friends. It could be the result of the treatment, one of the guards insisted, raising both hands as if in surrender. We aren't doctors, Mr. Lorcas. We only have the information the hospital staff provided. But we have no reason to believe the doctors and nurses entrusted with the child's care would lie about her situation. Clara could believe Theodora would be willing to lie about the state of her health, if only to get her back under her thumb. But for all that Theodora could be a tyrant, she was still a doctor. If the doctors in Dameron's world were anything like the doctors in her world, that meant she wouldn't be willing to put a patient at risk, not even to prove a point. So were the guards lying, or did they really have no idea what they were talking about? Dameron seemed to be considering the same question as his dark eyes flicked back and forth between the two men. At length, he shook his head. There's been enough research on Ferris Gelara reversal to make that scenario extremely I don't know why I can't read the sentence. There's been enough research on Ferris Gelara reversal to make that scenario extremely unlikely. In every case, when magic eliminates all remaining traces from early stage patients, the alterations to their psychological... Is that what that says? No, it says physiological. Psychological, physiological, they look the same on Monday morning. In every case when magic eliminates all remaining traces from early stage patients, the alterations to their physiological systems linger. There's also enough evidence to prove that treating late stage patients rolls back their mental state, one of the guards insisted. He was starting to sound desperate. To their previous mental state, Dameron agreed. There's no indication in these files of prior mental illness. If the girl you're looking for has lost track of reality, it isn't because of Ferris Gelara. The guards exchanged another glance, then one of them stood. Does it matter why she needs to be recovered? He demanded. The hospital staff are responsible for her well-being. Her parents are deceased, and the copy of their wills included in the folder names St. Blisbane's as her... names St. Blisbane. Would it be St. Blisbane? It should be St. Blisbane's, because it's the hospital, not the person. I don't think there is a St. Blisbane in the world. Does it matter why she needs to be recovered? He demanded. The hospital staff are responsible for her well-being. Her parents are deceased, and the copy of their will, included in the folder, named St. Blisbanes as her sole caregiver until such time as she recovers from her ailment. Clara gasped. No wonder the hospital staff made no indication of outside contact. There was no one for them to tell about her miraculous recovery. Even as the realization struck her, Clara clamped a hand over her mouth. But it was too late. The guard turned and locked eyes with her through the crack in the doorway. Instantly, he spun, extracting himself from the living room to stride in her direction. Dahmerin moved faster. His bulk slid in front of the door, blocking Clara's view of the conversation before the guard could pull her from her hiding space. Get out, he hissed, his voice low and dangerous. The conversation was loud now, its source mere inches from where she huddled. Mr. Lurkhast, please, one of the guards snarled. We're just trying to do our job. Surely you understand that. Dahmerin's answer was calm, but no less assertive. What I understand is that the Queen's Division outranks private security. Clara Sanderson or Jennifer Carter, whatever her name may turn out to be, is under my protection while I investigate whatever drove her to violate yesterday's evacuation order and run onto a battlefield in the middle of an active elemental incident. That's a long sentence. In the event of a dispute between us, the Crown would rule in my favor. Now, I also understand that the two of you were sent to recover a missing patient, and your client will expect answers when you return empty-handed. Please assure the staff of St. Blisbanes that the utmost care is being taken with the Please assure the staff of St. Blisbanes that the utmost care is being taken with this investigation. If they have any questions or concerns about Clara's safety or well-being, they can contact me directly at my office in Silver Garden. But until I'm satisfied the patient in question isn't in danger or suffering undue duress, I'm afraid I can't let her out of my custody. Now we can call up the local branch of the division if you like and get you any official paperwork you need. Clara's heart thundered so loud in her ears by the time Dahmerin finished speaking, it was a wonder she could still hear him. As gratified as she was that he acted on his promise, she dreaded to think what might happen now. As far as she could tell, Dahmerin hadn't retrieved his swords from the foyer, which meant the security guards were between him and anything he might use to defend himself, not to mention the exit. She didn't doubt Dahmerin was a capable warrior, but she had seen enough of the city guard yesterday to know there were guns in this world. And if one of the security officers decided to draw theirs, it won't be necessary. The words drifted through her haze of panic, barely penetrating her numb brain. We didn't realize the Crown had taken official interest in this matter. If that's the case, the staff of St. Blisbanes will simply have to go through the proper channels. Clara detected a hint of frost beneath the words. She imagined an equally frigid smile touching Dahmerin's lips when he spoke next. Thank you for understanding. Silence rang loud in Clara's ears, followed by the shuffle of retreating footsteps. Thanks again for the tip, Mr. Theridaur, one of the security guards said as his voice grew fainter. Clara didn't catch the response. It sounded like a little mutter from her position. What I actually wrote is, it sounded like little a mutter. That's not right. St. Blisbanes browse. That would be Joe's place. Am I okay? I'm just bad at reading, Peter. Thank you for the hydrate. And for the posture check, because I think I'm slouching. Just doing a bit of D&D planning before I've got to head off to play in my teacher campaign. Nice. Double D&D day. I think this just needs to go. Thanks for the tip, Mr. Theridaur, one of the security guards said as his voice grew fainter. Clara didn't catch the response. It sounded like a mutter from her position, but she guessed the new voice belonged to the man she'd seen hovering near the kitchen. She focused on drawing deep breaths and willing her heartbeat to return to normal until she heard the front door close. Then Dahmerin slid the guest room door all the way open, and Clara realized he had been hovering just outside like a sentinel, waiting for the right moment to move. He knelt, and his warm fingers brushed her shoulder. It's all right, he said softly. I told you I won't let anything bad happen. Clara met Dahmerin's gaze, shocked by how kind his eyes seemed now that the security guards were gone. While he had been questioning them, it seemed the intensity of his gaze might somehow cut flesh. But now he looked like a parent worried about a wounded child. How could a stranger be so invested in her well-being? You're lucky he is, or you'd be on your way to a padded room right now. Clara couldn't seem to push words past the lump in her throat, so she nodded instead. Dahmer nodded back and squeezed her shoulder. Now that the coast is clear, why don't you go get ready? It's almost time to leave. Again, Clara nodded, suddenly reminded of the main reason she had risen in the first place. She rose. Again, Clara nodded. Suddenly reminded of the main reason she rose in the first place, she stumbled to her feet and hurried to the bathroom. Perfect. That's why we read out loud, so that we can find things that don't make sense. How is D&D planning going, Ghost Pepper? Let's see. I changed a few things, but we have exactly the same number of words as we started with. Always interesting. Whoops. So let's look at our next scene. Not well, I'm being distracted by Twitch streams. Who else are you watching, Ghost Pepper? Who else is distracting you aside from me? Is the Glizzy King streaming again? Has he recovered from the mega charity event? Actually, I don't think Joe usually streams this early because he's basically on our time. He's probably asleep. Type Orange, Neon Medusa, and Coulter. Well, tell them I said hi. Also, I don't know how you do that many streams at one time. I can do maybe 2. I can do maybe 2 at a time. Alright, let's see what my betas had to say about this chapter. There's a lot of swearing in this coming chapter, so if you have an objection to hearing me swear a lot, be forewarned to hit that mute key. I actually don't have any mistakes to correct from the betas, so we'll see. I doubt that it's a error-free chapter, but might just mean people were so engrossed they didn't catch anything. This is a short chapter, actually. All right, I think I'm just gonna hop in and get started. And then I have to fix my chair. It's, again, this is this is one of the reasons we're raising money for new chairs, is because these are not the greatest. I use a little back pad to give me some lumbar support, but if I don't get it in exactly the right spot, it doesn't work. Meg, hello, how are you? Thank you for the stretch. Let's do it. Oh, yeah. Ooh, that feels good. And hydrate. Cheers. How are you, Meg? What is up? All right. Chapter 10 is called Old Wounds. Doing good, getting ready to head to work. Good luck. I hope you have a good day at work today. I hope everything goes smoothly. Dahmerin swallowed liquid rage as he surged to his feet. His anger smoldered in his gut, threatening to boil over, but he had yet to lose control of his temper, and he refused to give Kirith Theodor that power. Even so, it took every ounce of effort he possessed to keep from screaming when Kirith turned away from the door. "You called them?" Dahmerin demanded, his voice low and every bit as dangerous as it had been while he spoke to the security team. Kirith flinched, but Dahmerin wasn't sure if it was because of his tone or the realization of a mistake. He noted a moment of hesitation during which Kirith calculated a response. I should actually use Dahmerin's name here. Sometimes when you've got two people with the same pronouns in a scene, you have to use their names a lot more often or it gets confusing. I was very confused. I thought Stryker was looking in a mirror for a moment and talking to herself. No. That happened on Saturday, too. Ghost kept talking to Meg in chat, and I was like, what? He was like, not you. "You called them?" Dahmerin demanded, his voice low and every bit as dangerous as it had been while he spoke to the security team. Kirith flinched, but Dahmerin wasn't sure if it was because of his tone or the realization of a mistake. Dahmerin noted a moment of hesitation during which Kirith calculated a response. He'd gotten good at spotting those moments when his former lover's brain kicked into overdrive. He was actually considering denying the accusation. Again, I think I need to put his name there. Hang on. I actually don't need Dahmerin's name there. I think that'll work a bit better. Hey, Neo, how are you? What is up? How is work going? I'm just going to start this over because I'm like a paragraph in. Dahmerin swallowed liquid rage as he surged to his feet. His anger smoldered in his gut, threatening to boil over, but he had yet to lose control of his temper, and he refused to give Kirith Theodor that power. Even so, it took every ounce of effort he possessed to keep from screaming when Kirith turned away from the door. "You called them?" Dahmerin demanded, his voice low and every bit as dangerous as it had been while he spoke to the security team. Kirith flinched, but Dahmerin wasn't sure if it was because of his tone or the realization of a mistake. He noted a moment of hesitation during which Kirith calculated a response. He'd gotten good at spotting when his former lover's brain kicked into overdrive. Kirith was actually considering denying the accusation. The audacity swelled the anger still simmering in Dahmerin's gut. Kirith would have to be mad to try and convince him he hadn't heard properly, so he must be concocting a lie, some way to spin the statement in his favor. But either he couldn't think of something fast enough, or the warning flash in Dahmerin's eyes convinced him to abandon that tact. Kirith's shoulders sagged, and he hung his head as he moved away from the door. "What was I supposed to do, Dahmerin? Her face is all over the news." "So is mine," Dahmerin spoke through clenched teeth, which hopefully made it clear he wasn't trying to brag. Kirith knew about his duties, which made it hard to believe this was a simple lapse in judgment. "For fuck's sake, Kith, I'm trying to do my goddamn job. Do you have any idea how difficult those two can make things for me?" Kirith blinked. His eyes grew wide and glimmered with a fine sheen of moisture. At first, Dahmerin thought he was confused, but after a moment he realized he had used Kirith's old nickname, the one Dahmerin gave him while they were still together, a habit he hadn't quite been able to break. Gods be damned. But rather than lashing onto the slip, Kirith shook his head and said, "Why in the Queen's name would they do that? They were only trying to do their jobs too, you know?" Dahmerin sighed and raked his fingers through his hair, though the unruly locks settled quickly back into their former positions. His braid had come loose during the night, and he hadn't had a chance to rebind it. "Sure, But if one of them gets bitter over the fact that I pulled rank, all they have to do is question my integrity. Think for a god's damn minute, would you? I haven't been back to my office yet. I don't have official paperwork for this case. At the moment, it would be really fucking easy to make it look like I kidnapped the poor kid. Kirith gasped, as if he considered the idea unthinkable. Considering what you've done for this kingdom, they'd have to be pretty petty to try something like that. Domran rolled his eyes. You're neither that innocent nor that stupid. I drove right over their toes. People in the private sector hate that. And even a man in his position didn't have the luxury of an unassailable reputation. He was, in fact, more vulnerable than most. Still, he drew a deep breath, trying to ease the flames threatening to flood his veins. The damage was done. Yelling wouldn't change that. Kirith must have noted the gesture because he mirrored it. Look, I'm sorry. She's a minor. I thought her parents might be looking for her. How was I supposed to know they're dead? Even with his anger restrained, it was hard for Domran to keep his frustration in check. How many times had they had this exact conversation? You're not sorry. That's exactly the problem. The words escaped Domran's lips before he could swallow them, and he instantly regretted opening the door. Of course I'm sorry, Kirith retorted, his voice choked with emotion. He curled his hands into fists at his sides, squeezing so tightly his knuckles grew pale. Why would you say that? Because you never change, Domran answered through clenched teeth again. He ground his jaw so hard it was a wonder none of his teeth cracked. You think you can do whatever the hell you want as long as you say you're sorry about it after, as if regret eases the consequences of your actions. That's not true, Kirith insisted, his anger mounting. He drew his lips back in a snarl as the first tears formed at the edges of his eyes. Normally, this was when Domran sighed and walked away, because that was always easier than dealing with these situations. But today he was glad for a familiar confrontation, if only because it erased the seeds of doubt planted by his former lover the night before. But it is, Domran said, his tone emotionless and flat. You didn't consider how calling that hotline would affect me, or how I would feel about it. And you sure shit didn't consider Clara's feelings. That kid ran away for a reason. You think sending her back to the people she fled is going to help her? Kira's face blanched. He took a step back, perhaps realizing how big a mistake he had made. But the moment passed quickly. He regained both his confidence and his color. I said I was sorry, and I am. If something happens, I'll deal with it. I won't just run away and pretend I wasn't involved. Again, Kirith's words sent a tingle racing down Domran's spine. The tiny hairs on the back of his neck came to life. He felt like a porcupine, all bristles and spikes, ready to stab the thing that hurt him. But if anything, Kirith had only proven his point. Some mistakes couldn't be erased, no matter how hard you tried, which meant it was pointless to continue this conversation. Off to work, Meg. Good luck. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. I worked 18 hours, rested 3 hours, then worked 6 hours again. Wow. There was an emergency, but no worries. Everything is all right. There was a leak in an underground storage facility. The people working in the facility did an amazing job. Well, I'm glad to hear that everyone's all right. We were there to extract the things in it. I was the team leader of the extracting teams. It was stressful, but okay. I slept 11 hours today. Good thing today is my day off. Well, I'm glad you have a day off. I'm glad everything is okay. I'm glad that it went smoothly. I'm not surprised if you were the team leader because you are amazing, Neo. I'm doing pretty good. We did a massive charity drive this weekend for Doctors Without Borders, aka Médecins Sans Frontières. We raised over $3,000 through the Twitch community. So again, thanks to everyone who hung out for that. You're all amazing and the best. And today I have a new book out. So that's pretty cool. All right. I'm gonna restart the sprint timer again because I think we will coincide with the end of it. Where's the button? I lost the button for the timer. There we go. No worries, Neo. I know you have to remember them by memory. I think maybe it's GH0 STPOG. I think. Nope, it's not that either. I lied. Ignore me. I don't remember them. I don't remember them off the top of my head. Hang on. Hang on, I can get it for you. Oh, it's Pepperpog. P-E-P-P-R-Pog. There we go. Fox, hello, how are you? There you go. There you go, Neo. It's Pepperpog instead of Ghostpog. We got it. We got it in the end. Fox, what is up? How was your weekend? We are reading some more stuff today. Again, Kirith's words sent a tingle racing down Damarin's spine. The tiny hairs on the back of his neck came to life. He felt like a porcupine, all bristles and spikes, ready to stab the thing that hurt him. But if anything, Kirith had only proven his point. Some mistakes couldn't be erased, no matter how hard you tried, which meant it was pointless to continue this conversation. Stiff with resentment and the effort required to contain it, Damarin turned his back on his host and moved toward the corner where he shoved his bag. We have to go. I'm sorry we intruded on your space. His voice sounded mechanical when it struck his ears. He felt like he was on autopilot, moving only because his body knew how to function while his mind shut down. Don't do this again, Kirith pleaded, desperate now, all traces of his anger gone. Please, Damarin, this might be the one chance we have to fix things. Damarin snorted. It was a cruel, dismissive sound, but it boiled from his gut before the rational part of his mind roused to halt it. You make it sound as if I walked out in the middle of a perfect relationship, he said as he turned, tired now instead of angry. As if I didn't spend 4 years trying to fix it before I said, fuck this whole thing. Kirith opened his mouth to respond, probably to tell him that saying fuck this whole thing would have been better than disappearing in silence. But he closed his mouth, apparently abandoning his initial response. Instead, he folded his hands in front of him and bowed his head. When he spoke again, his voice was soft. You have it, don't you? The staring sickness. Damarin turned away, his chest tight. But maybe he should have had this conversation 10 years ago. Then he wouldn't have had to lug it around like a sack of rocks. I have stage 1, he admitted, but I get exposed to enough magic that my condition is stable and unlikely to deteriorate. He didn't turn around, didn't want to see the look in Kirith's eyes when he finally put the pieces together. Is that why you left? He asked, his voice so soft, so fragile, it nearly shattered when it struck Damarin's ears. Damarin caught himself with one hand on the couch, leaning his weight into the sturdy padded furniture. Why he did these things to himself, he didn't know. This could so easily have been avoided. Not just Kith, but the security guards as well. He shook his head and finally met Kirith's gaze. It would be a lie to say it wasn't a factor. Kirith pressed his hands together, entwining his fingers tightly. He might be digging his nails into his knuckles, Damarin couldn't tell. He focused on the way Kirith's face folded, half with sorrow, half with outrage. You should have told me, he hissed after a moment. I had a right to know. It's my problem. There's no reason you need to share it. Except that's what partners do, Kirith's voice cracked like a whip. They share burdens with each other. We could have managed it. It's a sexually transmitted disease, Kirith. The words came out more harshly than Damarin intended, so he modified his tone when he continued. You're a blacksmith, not a mage, and you don't work with magic the way I do. That makes your choices expensive treatment for the rest of your life or wasting away. You think I wanted to put you in that position? It was my decision to make, Kirith insisted. Damarin made a soft, frustrated sound deep in his throat and pushed away from the couch. This is why I didn't tell you, he said, jabbing a finger in Kirith's direction. This right here. I knew you'd act like a martyr willing to sacrifice himself for our love. We were in shambles. Contracting the staring sickness might have been the brick that shattered the crate, but it wasn't the biggest or the heaviest by far. And it would have been irresponsible for me to ignore that, no matter how you feel retroactively. Kirith didn't answer. He was silent a long time, his eyes on the floor, his arms at his sides. Halo, welcome back! I hope shopping went well. Oh my goodness, I'm good. Finished my favorite short story so far on Friday. Nice! So I'm riding that high. Excellent, excellent. I hope you write another favorite story. I hope every story is your favorite from now on. The so-called emergency wasn't an emergency, but the protocol says it is. I'm happy that I was able to work under pressure, although my bosses were the real leaders. Ah, I see. But don't, you know, give yourself some credit for your participation, right? If you're a team leader, you still led your team. That's still important too, Neo. Whoops. I'm just clicking on all the wrong things. Kirith didn't answer. He was silent a long time, his eyes on the floor, his arms at his sides. As the silence stretched on, Domran realized he hadn't seen Clara in a while. She had been in the bathroom an awfully long time, and he didn't hear any water running. He hoped she wasn't waiting with her ear pressed to the door for the turret to pass. She had enough to worry about without dealing with his problems on top of it. Safe or not, bringing Clara here had been a massive mistake. The best he could do now was extract them both before it turned ugly. What about Crescent? Kirith asked at last, jolting Domran back to the moment. Again, his body reacted as though preparing for a fight. What does he have to do with anything? Domran demanded, genuinely surprised that Kirith would drop his name at a time like this. He has it, doesn't he? The words were almost a growl, forced through clenched teeth amid several deep breaths. Kirith looked like a bear working himself into a frenzy. That could just be working toward a frenzy. Doesn't need to be a himself. It went well till we had to pack the car, then the rain started and we had a lot of cardboard. Oh no! Halo! I hope you managed to get everything in the car before the cardboard disintegrated. That sounds awful, but it would be even worse to have to ferry all of the groceries into the house one at a time. They switched to cardboard at our grocery store too. They do everything in boxes now. Which I can appreciate, but it is a little harder sometimes. AB Coffee, hello! How are you? What is up? I didn't get a chance to look at what you posted in the Discord yet because we were so busy this weekend, but I haven't forgotten. It is on my list of things to do as soon as I find a free moment. We had our mega charity event this weekend, so we were pretty busy with that. And then on Sunday, we were just totally smashed from all the energy of that. So that's true. I know it's there, but I didn't want you to think that I forgot about you. I do check all the stuff that gets posted on the Discord. It's just, I feel like life has been crazy since pretty much the end of May, and I keep being like, yeah, in a couple weeks it'll clear out. In a couple weeks everything will be normal, and then it's not. So I was like, hopefully the summer will settle down, and it never did. So now I'm like, September? If anyone else wanted to check it out, though, it's in the Writers Chat channel. That is true. AB Coffee posted a little preview of something that he's been working on in there if you want to check it out. How was your weekend? Did I ask that? I'm sorry if I'm on like repeat mode today. It is Monday. It is very Monday. And we're doing some more reading out loud, so welcome in. Where did I stop? What about Crescent? Kirith asked at last, jolting Domran back to the moment. Again, his body reacted as though preparing for a fight. What does he have to do with anything? Domran demanded, genuinely surprised that Kirith would drop his name at a time like this. He has it, doesn't he? The words were almost a growl, forced through clenched teeth and amid several deep breaths. Kirith looked like a bear working toward a frenzy. Staring sickness. That's none of your damn business, Domran replied, angry again. He pivoted around the couch and snatched his bag off the floor. Kirith stomped his foot. The impact was so loud it echoed through the large space. He does, doesn't he? And that makes him safer than me. A sigh caught in Domran's throat, escaping as half a growl and half a groan. I don't have time for this, he snapped as he settled his duffel over his shoulder. If you still don't believe he had anything to do with our breakup, there's no point saying it again. He was on his way to the bathroom, hoping to draw Clara from hiding when Kirith grabbed his arm. He squeezed like a drowning man just thrown a rope. His eyes were wide but free of moisture. He squeezed it. Probably works better. He was on his way to the bathroom, hoping to draw Clara from hiding when Kirith grabbed his arm. He squeezed it like a drowning man just thrown a rope. His eyes were wide but free of moisture. Please, he pleaded, his voice cracking. Don't leave like this. At least give us a chance to part on good terms. I'll make breakfast, like I said. Domran drew a deep, measured breath. This was always where he caved, where he gave his ex the hook he needed to drag himself, however temporarily, back into his life. He checked his watch. Thankfully, there was only a little over an hour left before he was supposed to meet Rylan, a more than reasonable amount of time to leave if he wanted to account for traffic. He lowered his arm and shook his head. I'm sorry, Kirith, but we really have to leave if we're going to make the train. There are regular trains between here and the capital, Kirith insisted, tightening his grip. Surely the Queen's Division could get you on any one of... I borrowed Rylan's car. I have to keep his schedule. Kirith had dated Damarin long enough to know how picky Rylan was about his car. It was probably the only point of vanity Damarin's best friend allowed himself to indulge. Clara, he called before Kirith had a chance to respond. He extracted himself from Kirith's grip. He extracted his arm. Trying to get rid of himself, herself was a habit that I had a lot when I wrote this book. So I'm trying to get rid of them. Short, they're all short nowadays. I feel that. I said I need an extra weekend to catch up from my weekend. I definitely feel that. Clara, he called before Kirith had a chance to respond. He extracted his arm from Kirith's grip as gently as he could, though the man was clinging so tightly it required a hard jolt. I hope I'm not intruding, but we should probably hit the road. Are you ready to go? The guest room door slid open. When Clara had made her way... the hat doesn't need to be there. The guest room door slid open. When Clara made her way from one room to the other, Damarin couldn't say, but he had a sinking suspicion something in her past made her good at passing through arguments unnoticed. Thanks for letting us use your apartment, she said to Kirith, flashing him a charming smile. I made the bed so you won't have to worry about it. While Kirith was still trying to formulate a response to this, Clara darted past him. She put her shoes on with lightning speed, then made her way out the door. Damarin suspected she wouldn't go more than 3 feet down the hallway until he caught up with her, but he marveled at how easily she extracted herself from an awkward situation. Perhaps she could teach him a thing or two. Though it was a matter of a moment to strap his swords into place, it took a little longer for Damarin to don his boots. Kirith stood behind him the entire time, his eyes trying to bore a hole into the back of Damarin's head. He looked like a puppy desperate to be adopted. Are you sure it's okay to skip breakfast? He fussed as Damarin finished lacing the first boot and moved on to the second. It's the most important meal of the day. We'll eat on the train, Damarin promised. He laced the second boot as quickly as he dared, then reached for the doorknob. Take care of yourself, Kirith, he said softly, then slid through the door without waiting for a reply. Soon there would be comfortable miles between them again. Then hopefully Damarin would be able to forget all the old wounds he had so carelessly ripped open. Carelessly. I almost said carefully, but that's different. Anybody played Lego Star Wars Skywalker Legacy? I have not. I played the older Star Wars Lego games, though, and they were really good. So I imagine it's probably pretty good. The Lego games are all pretty stellar from what I remember. I haven't played a ton of them. Damarin, cool guy? I'm glad you think so. This sequence is a particularly hard one for Damarin because there are a lot of emotions. I mentioned at the beginning of stream, but Kirith and Damarin's relationship did not end well. So there's a lot of old wounds, as mentioned, going on in there. So I'm pretty happy with that scene. In general, I feel like it hits all the right places. I like him. I'm glad you like him, Neo. I like him too, but I'm biased. I'm biased. He lives in my head. But I'm glad to hear that people are generally responding well to him, since he is the main character of the series. It wouldn't be a very good series if people didn't like the main character. So we started with 2,483 words. We ended with 2,481, a grand total of 2 words different. But no matter, we are on little fiddly fixes right now, so that is all to the good. All right, I think we're gonna do one more chapter. This chapter is a little bit longer, so we're gonna let the sprint timer run out, and then we're gonna take a quick break before we start this chapter. And then we'll see what time it is. So this one is 4,709, so significantly longer. This is one of what I refer to as a transition scene. So this is basically a scene where my characters go from one place to another, but there's a lot of important information in this scene that sets up for things later. So it's a little bit longer than normally I like to go, but it all has to be there. And so hopefully this will give you Up to this point, we've been doing a lot of character focus and a lot of character building. There was that one scene where Clara walked through the city and you got to see a little bit of the city. So this is going to be sort of similar, where we're going to see a bit more of the world and a bit more of how things fit into the world. And I have called this chapter Familiar and Odd, but I might try and change it because I don't know if I like that. The 1st of September is the day of me being a new person on Earth, my birthday. That's awesome, Neo. I'll be sure to tell you happy birthday on September 1st. Happy early birthday. Happy unbirthday. A very merry unbirthday to you. I was also born on the 1st of a month. I was born on the 1st of June. Yours is August 31st. That's amazing, you guys. We're gonna have to have like a collective birthday party for you guys. 69 years old. Is that how old you'll actually be, Neo? Or is that just so that you can say browse? Is that just so you can say browse? Oh my goodness. So I can say browse. I figured. My birthday is on June 1st, and I don't know if Ghost has told everyone his yet, but his is April 24th. You're not weak for wanting to say browse, Neo. I appreciate you admitting that it was that it was for lulz. Oh my goodness. I like having a June birthday because I'm almost like, my birthday is almost exactly half a year from Christmas. Not quite, but almost, pretty close. So it's like, you know, I celebrate Christmas and then half a year later I celebrate my birthday. But I have friends who are born in like December or January who are like, yeah, having a birthday right on top of Christmas isn't the most fun. You're only 30, Neo? Am I actually older than you? Don't feel bad about 30. There is nothing wrong with 30. Neo, I'm 37. So, I'm pretty sure I'm 37. I'm pretty sure I turned 37 this year. I can never keep track. Yeah, I'm 37. I've had my birthday this year. I'm 37. For a while I was like, I'm 35. And then I was like, no, that's not right. Because it's not a 5-year. I did have to do a quick subtraction. I was born in 1985. So do the maths. I will be 40 in 2025. So yeah. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm old enough to be the adult supervision though, even at 37. So 40 is the new 30. So I've heard. People are always like, you don't look older than 27. And I'm like, thank you. When I was 25, we were still living in Toronto, and a guy came to, I had just gotten home from work, right? So this was when I was working for IT at a consulting firm, and I was still dressed in like my business casual for the day. And a guy knocked on the door, and I answered it, and he was like, "Are your parents home?" And I just gave him this weird look, and I was like, "I'm 25." And he just couldn't, he never recovered. He was there to sell us cable, but he just could not speak a coherent sentence after that. It's just like, I appreciate that you think I look like 15, but I'm 25 and this is my place and my parents aren't here and they aren't in this country and you can't talk to them. But I was like, I'm standing here in my business casual attire. Like, it's not like I was wearing pajamas or like, you know, a school uniform or anything like anything that would make me look like a teenager. And he was just like, And I was like, okay, bye. We're not buying cable today. Bye. The first time I saw you, not knowing who you were, I thought you were 25. I appreciate that, Neo. I do. Genuinely. I appreciate that people think I look that young. It was funny because I was on Sable Aradia's channel. She does streaming with her partner, Erin. And so we were talking about them coming over to hang out, which we did last week, and that was amazing. They're amazing people, and I love hanging out with them, and I can't wait to hang out with them again. But we were talking before he came over, and he was like, just assume that everyone under 40 looks the same to me. And I was like, it's okay, I'm 37. I don't mind people knowing that I'm that old. Screen distortion? Ah, thanks, Neo. Not youth and beauty, but bad camera angle. Hey, if the camera subtracts 10 years, I'll take it. I'll take the camera subtracting 10 years. Seriously. So yeah, I guess I've always just looked a little young for my age, or maybe like maybe we have like a distorted idea of what age looks like these days. But that I've always remembered that. It was so, what was really funny was that the guy was so like, all I said was, I'm 25. Like I suppose I said it in like an incredulous tone because I was like, excuse you. But he just never recovered. I guess he was so mind blown by the fact that I was 25 or by the fact that he stuck his foot down his throat that he just couldn't get it together for the sales pitch. So yeah. I don't know. That hasn't happened in a while though. And I will say when I buy booze, I don't get carded. So clearly I look old enough for all the wine that I drink. My brother was bald like an egg, I'm assuming, when he was 20. He looks 50, but he's 40. Yeah, I guess, I think we have certain perceptions of like people of this age have like gray hair, or people of this age are starting to go bald or something, but like it's not necessarily true. So, you never really know. So yeah, but it was funny because whose chat was I in? I think it was Joe's. I was watching Jay Chili, and somebody was talking about a movie coming out in, or maybe it was Dad. Maybe it was in ATM Dad's chat, but someone was talking about a movie coming out in like, I think it was 2015 or 2014, and they were like, yeah, I thought it came out, this is still in high school. And I was like, you were still in high school in 2015? Excuse me while I go to the corner and cry. And then one of the other people in chat was like, yeah, I was born in the 1990s. And I was like, you just hear soft sobbing from the corner. Class of 2003. Also, incidentally, the year Ghost and I were married, 2003. I was 18 when we got married. 2 weeks out of high school. Graduated, I think it was June 18th? No, it would have been earlier than that. It would have been like June 7th. And then we got married on the 21st. You were born in 1993! Neo, pardon me while I step into the corner to sob softly. I thought you were older than me, Neo. You're so mature. I thought you were, like, older than me. My goodness. You work too hard for 30, Neo. You gotta go out and party sometimes. You gotta meet people. You gotta do parties. You can't work as much as you do. What the heck? What the heck, my dude? Yeah, you gotta, like, talk to people. I don't know, but I also from texts thought you were older than me. Yeah. The way you talk about, like, dedication to work and all this other stuff, like, I totally thought you were older. I'm turning 31, golden birthday tomorrow. Okay, like, all you kids, get off my lawn. Just get off my lawn unless you're gonna mow it. You're all so young. Although I guess I shouldn't say you're so young if I'm only like 6 years older than you, but hey, I'm 6 years older than you. I don't talk or see, this is what I'm saying though, Neo. Like you have such this mature outlook on life that I thought you were, I shouldn't say much older, but I thought you were older than 30. Like most people at age 30 aren't like, I work this much and everything's work, and you just have such a mature and grounded like perspective on the world that I just assumed you were older. You have an old soul, Neo. You have an old soul. All right, I'm gonna take that break, quick bio break, because I gotta use the rostrum, and then we'll come back and do some more work. Momi, I hope you're getting all the words in. I will be back to do more work with all you children apparently that are in the chat. When you live in the street, you don't think or learn to party. I guess that's fair. I don't know your whole life, and I don't know your whole life story, and I shouldn't make assumptions. But you do sound like a wise and venerable older soul, Neo, just so you know. I will BRB. I have returned. Chairs, mugs, etc. Gaming industry profits. I just like my work too. Well, I'm glad you like your work, Neo. That's important. Just 2,216. Just 2,016 words so far today. Hey, that's nothing to shake a stick at. That's a good amount of words. Need to get a lot more than that. I'm running out of days. I was thinking about the chair-a-thon over the weekend. I'm in the process of redoing my desk setup to be more ergonomic, since I can't sit like a goblin when my shoulder is hurt. Fair. My husband suggested I should get a chair like his, but they're $530. Why are chairs so expensive? Well, that's why if you look at our rewards, we're aiming for $1,200 because we're hoping to each get $600 chairs. It sucks. Like, seriously, the fact that you have to pay that much to get something that won't destroy you from just sitting in it. That's where the gaming industry equals profits. But here's the thing, is it's not just gamers that need those chairs. Like, people work from home now. You need, like, a proper office chair to sit in at home to work. Like, seriously, some people I spend, like, 10 hours a day in my chair. Which is why I'm trying to exercise more and trying to do yoga more and all that kind of stuff so that I'm not destroying myself from sitting in a chair. But, like, come on. The more people are working from home, the more they're going to need access to this kind of stuff. It's just insane. Today, when you look for a chair, they assume it's a gaming chair. That is true. Even just office ergo chairs are nuts expensive. Yep, I was looking at a list of most comfiest, and they're all north of 600. Yeah. Meme Potter, hello. How are you? What is up? We're just talking about chairs right now because Ghost and I are raising some money for chairs. This is a look at the rewards that we can unlock. We're currently working on unlocking Ghost Makes Hot Sauce stream. He's got a lot of peppers out of the garden. He just came in with he basically had pulled up his shirt and made a little pocket. So he had a bunch of jalapenos and a bunch of, I forget what the other ones are. If he's lurking, maybe he'll say. But he has the big ones, the big green ones. So he's got lots of stuff to work with if we unlock that Make a Hot Sauce stream. And he will be setting up his stream equipment in the kitchen and streaming himself making some hot sauce. So, and then after that, we can work on unlocking the divorce court brunch. Gonna watch a movie with my mother. Take care, Neo. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it, ya youngin'. Take care. Get some rest after having to work so much. Oh my goodness. But yeah, no, the chairs are stupid expensive. But I feel like you can apply that to just about any furniture. Like, these days, if you want nice furniture that's not like particle board fall apart when you breathe on it wrong furniture, you have to pay pretty out the nose for it. And I remember we were just talking about this the other day because we had company over and we were talking about the fact that our dining room table is very shaky. But we want to get an actual like solid wood dining room table instead of just a flimsy, whatever. And if you want something that's not going to fall apart, like, it's hard. When we bought our bedroom set most of, I think, 7-8 years ago now, almost a decade ago now, like, we scoured the place that we lived in to find something that was solid and handmade and not like particle board machine put together, because we wanted something that would last. We wanted lifetime furniture, but they just don't make stuff like that anymore. Bye-bye, boomer. Neo, get out. Get out. They just don't make stuff like that anymore. So, like, if you want, like, really good, like, solid, gonna last you through a couple moves furniture, like, it's hard to find and it's pricey. And it kind of sucks. But it's like we spent like $250 on 3 stools for our island. It's not an island, but our like cabinet, our like bar. That's what I'm trying to say, like bar stools. I can't words already. And they're nice, but they're cheap. Like, the screws are falling out already. We got to find some nicer screws to put in there. And so when people come over, I'm like, don't lean back on the backs too much. And they look like solid, sturdy chairs, but they're just not. And it's like, I don't want to spend $500 on each individual chair, But if you want something really nice, sometimes that's what it costs. And it's just like, why do we make it so inaccessible to have nice stuff? Like, I get that people need to survive. Like, if you're someone who's like handcrafting furniture, I get it. But that's not like, if I go into a furniture store, like, that's not what I'm necessarily getting, right? So you can words just with your fingers, not with your face. That is true. I'm much better at wordsing with my fingers than my face. I'm fine. Had finished a first draft last Monday. Nice! And now I'm world building for a new project. And for now I need a little pause. Hey, that's totally fair. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of stick with it to get to the end of something. So celebrate that and absolutely take time to recover. It is so important to recharge those creative batteries. We can't be doing creative stuff all the time. We sometimes need to take a pause and get some of that creative energy back, because creativity costs energy. And if you don't have energy to give, like, you just can't. I've been waiting on a package because I ordered some of my own books from Amazon, and they're finally supposed to arrive today. And I was hoping we would be able to open them on stream, but I don't think they're gonna come until this afternoon, so sad. But I'll try to show them off tomorrow. It's just my books, but it would be nice to have some copies of my books. In the meantime, let's restart that sprint timer for anyone who's sprinting and wants to get some more words in. Good luck with your words or your world building or whatever you're working on. And I'm gonna get back to reading. I'm gonna try to keep an eye out for a better title for this chapter, but for now, it's called Familiar and Odd. And let's see, what did my betas make note of for this chapter? Spelled a character's name wrong, apparently. Gotta go get the munchkin soon. Gonna pop out, but it was nice to lurk. Thank you so much for hanging out, Lomi. I really appreciate it. I hope you're able to get some more words in, because you said that you needed to, but don't despair 2,000 words. That is a decent amount of words. And I hope to see you again. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon doing some world building, although I assume my morning is more your work time, so maybe we'll catch you on Wednesday, the Prime Wednesday. Let's see, what else did my betas catch for this? Hey, Sappho, what is up? Oh, that reminds me, Sappha, I think I owe you something from the Game of Tomes raffle. I think you won a copy of Light of Eternity, actually, if you would like it. A digital copy. I skipped a word. I have this bad habit of when I do edits, I remove words and I remove too many words. That's too far. Ah. Okay, that should fix that. It's sentences like this: shelves of various of alcohol. I clearly originally wrote various bottles of alcohol and then changed it. Okay, and that is all the notes that my betas left for me. Good stuff. I forgot I reheated my coffee and I almost burnt my tongue. Dameron didn't speak during the drive to the train station. Clara doubted any amount of familiarity would ever allow her to see through his stoic expressions, but she guessed he was still chewing over his confrontation with Kith, or Kirith, whatever his name was. When Dameron mentioned taking her to his ex-boyfriend's apartment, she assumed the two of them parted on good terms, remained friends, or did each other regular favors. Now she wondered why Dameron had taken her there, and how bad the other options must have been. She kept thinking she should apologize. If it weren't for her, he never would have had to confront his ex in the first place. But the words kept sticking in her throat. She didn't know this man, not really, and he clearly wasn't in the best mood. She didn't want to turn his anger in her direction. So she shifted in the passenger seat, watched the city race by outside the window, and listened to the heavy driving drum and bass in the songs that blared through the speakers. That was a little awkward. I'm going to read it again. So she shifted in the passenger seat. This should actually probably be one whole paragraph. She didn't know this man, not really, and he clearly wasn't in the best mood. She didn't want to turn his anger in her direction. So she shifted in the passenger seat, watched the city race by outside the... That doesn't need to be there. That's the problem. She didn't know this man, not really, and he clearly wasn't in the best mood. She didn't want to turn his anger in her direction, so she shifted in the passenger seat, watched the city race outside the window, and listened to the heavy driving drum and bass in the songs. Hang on. Was that awkward, or was that just me tripping over the sentence? Sorry for reading this like 50 times. She didn't know this man, not really, and he clearly wasn't in the best mood. She didn't want to turn his anger in her direction, so she shifted in the passenger seat, watched the city race outside the windows, and listened to the heavy driving drum and bass in the songs that blared through the speakers. It's all good. Perhaps I should deliver that message, she thought at the voice, which had been strikingly silent since she entered Dameron's company. Now's not the best time, the dry voice chided gently. Clara couldn't decide if she was reassured that it answered her call or disturbed it was still there. Let's give him a little space. Fair enough. After she had a spat with Marshall, she always needed a few minutes to stew. The train station was located on the outskirts of an industrial complex. Behind them, the residential portion of the city loomed over the roadway, no doubt choked full of people now that the sun was well up. That's not what that says. The train station was located on the outskirts of an industrial complex. Behind them, the residential portion of the city loomed over the roadways, no doubt choked full of people now that the sun was well up. That doesn't quite work. Because the subject of the sentence is the residential portions of the city. The train station was located on the outskirts of an industrial complex. Behind them, the residential portion of the city loomed over the roadways, which were no doubt choked full of people now that the sun was well up. Ahead of them, a series of flat, paved surfaces separated chunky warehouses and factories with smoke brimming from thick chimneys. The air had the slight metallic tang that Clara had come to associate with mass transit. No sooner had they parked in an out-of-the-way section of the lot and emerged from the car than did a motorcycle streak past their location, its engine humming. It had only moved a few feet beyond the rear of Ryland's car when the driver pivoted, wheeling the bike in a tight circle around the car and its passengers. Dahmerin crossed his arms over his chest as he watched the biker start a second circuit. They were moving slower this time, but it was no less obvious the rider was showing off. The bike was halfway through its third circle when Dahmerin bellowed, "You done yet?" Sorry. The bike was halfway through its third circle when Dahmerin bellowed, "You done yet?" The biker skidded to a stop, pulling the motorcycle into a neat line beside Ryland's car. Then he reached up and removed his helmet, revealing Ryland's grinning face. "What, you don't trust me?" Dahmerin shot him a sharp look. That'd probably be Dahmerin shot Ryland. The biker skidded to a stop, pulling the motorcycle into a neat line beside Ryland's car. Then he reached up and removed his helmet, revealing Ryland's grinning face. "What, you don't trust me?" Dahmerin shot Ryland a sharp look, but Clara caught a hint of mirth in his eyes. "You put a scratch on my bike, and I'm going to key your car with your own keys." Ryland chuckled. "I wouldn't dream of it." He settled the helmet over one of the bike's handles and swung his leg free of the seat. Clara glanced sideways at Dahmerin. She was standing to his right, the side without the scar and earring. She never would have guessed he was a motorcycle man, though it explained why he had borrowed his friend's car. The hat doesn't need to be there. Clara glanced sideways at Dahmerin. The words are just melting together now. Oh my goodness. It'll be time for a break after this chapter. Clara glanced sideways at Dahmerin. She was standing to his right, the side without the scar and earring. She never would have guessed he was a motorcycle man, though it explained why he borrowed his friend's car. Bikes were definitely a left-side Dahmerin thing. "How did things go with Kirith?" Ryland asked as he tossed Dahmerin his keys. Dahmerin caught his keys in his left hand and tossed Ryland's keys with his right. Then he winced and shook his head. "Yikes," Ryland murmured. "Dare I ask?" A soft growl issued from Dahmerin's throat as he strode toward his bike. It gleamed in the morning sunlight. Hang on. A soft growl issued from Dahmerin's throat as he strode toward his bike, which gleamed in the morning sunlight. A streamlined sculpture made of black and silver metal. He called the guard. "On you?" Ryland exclaimed, dumbfounded. "On her," Dahmerin jerked a thumb over his shoulder. Clara only shrugged. Fire crept into her cheeks, but she was powerless to dispel it. Luckily, she didn't think Ryland's answering scowl was meant for her. "Need me to take care of anything before I go?" Ryland asked as he twirled his keys absently around his index finger. Dahmerin shook his head. "Just tell Julie how much I'll miss her." Julie is Ryland's car's name, just for anyone who missed that. A soft growl issued from Dahmerin's throat as he strode toward his bike, which gleamed in the morning sunlight. Hang on, I backed up too far. "Need me to take care of anything before I go?" Ryland asked as he twirled his keys absently around his index finger. Dahmerin shook his head. "Just tell Julie how much I'll miss her." He glanced over his shoulder, a wicked grin splitting his lips. Ryland barked a laugh and waved his hand in dismissal as he moved toward the car. "Fuck you, Lorcasp." "Not your type," Dahmerin retorted, raising his voice to be heard over the slamming of the car door. He hesitated then, making a sharp gesture toward the window. Ryland must have understood because he rolled the window down seconds after starting the engine. "Left your armor in the back?" he asked, the mirth in his tone indicating that he was tempted to make Dahmerin miserable. "That a problem?" Dahmerin shot back, arching an eyebrow. Ryland waved his hand again. "I'll take care of it. Travel safe." He saluted, then backed the car out of its spot. Clara stood close to Dahmerin until the electric blue car disappeared into the distance. She could tell the two men were good friends. The only person she spoke to like that was her best friend, and not many people would trust someone else with a car as fancy as Ryland's, or a bike as nice as Dahmerin's. "I thought we were taking the train," she said when the distant roar of the engine faded to silence. She cast an uncertain glance at the bike. Dahmerin chuckled. "Didn't think you'd want to spend 5 hours on the highway on the back of this." He patted the motorcycle seat. "Unless you ride." Clara raised both hands in front of her, palms facing outward. "Only once or twice. I don't think that qualifies me as a rider." "That's good, though. You'll know the basics," Dahmerin replied. His tone was friendly enough to ease Clara's worry over how the morning started. If he was mad, it wasn't directed at her. He motioned for Clara to follow, then raised the bike's kickstand. With practiced care, he guided the motorcycle along the outside edge of the cracked concrete square toward a gathering crowd. Clara noted several pairs of train tracks disappearing into the distance. There were no fancy overhead galleries, just a series of ramps and platforms surrounding the massive vehicles. There were at least 2 trains waiting in the yard, one surrounded by far more activity than the other. This, she assumed, was the one heading to Silver Garden. Dom! Both Dameron and Clara halted, jerking their heads in the direction of the call. Moments later, a centaur trotted from the crowd. His body was sleek, his fur a burnished red-brown, his skin a matching bronze. He grinned as he came to a halt, smacking each of his hooves against the pavement once. I heard you had some precious cargo, the centaur eyed Clara. Dameron laughed and shifted the bike toward the centaur, who instantly took hold of it. Did Rylan text you? No, Val did, the centaur replied with a wink. I'll be sure to thank her. Make sure she gets the VIP treatment. From the shift in Dameron's tone, Clara guessed the second statement was about his bike. He reached into his pocket and flipped a gold coin into the into? That's not what it says. He reached into his pocket and flipped a gold coin in the centaur's direction. I'll owe you one. The centaur caught the coin and shook his head. It's my pleasure. Catch you on the flip side. He waved, then bent and slid one arm beneath the motorcycle's heavy frame. In the next moment, he hefted the bike over one shoulder and trotted back toward the train. Clara's jaw nearly hit the ground. She was still staring when Dameron gently guided her to the left, into the thickest portion of the crowd. Still, she kept her head turned toward the centaur until the throng broke her line of sight. Aside from the magical creatures sprinkled among the gathering, the train station wasn't much different than some of the subway platforms in Toronto. The crowd was thickest near the middle of the train, where commuters were likely packing themselves in for an overnight trip. I don't think the themselves needs to be there either. Like I said, I'm trying to get rid of a bunch of those. I have some coffee. Aside from the magical creatures sprinkled among the gathering, the train station wasn't much different than some of the subway platforms in Toronto. The crowd was thickest near the middle of the train, where commuters were likely packing in for an overnight trip. Luckily, Dameron directed her toward the rear of the train. The worker manning the door took one look at her guide and waved them both past. What waited beyond the narrow sliding doors looked less like a train car and more like a fancy airport lounge. A bar occupied the far corner, complete with hanging glasses and shelves of various alcohols. Clara guessed they kept all of it from shattering while the train was in motion with magic, but it still boggled her mind. The rest of the car was filled with plush couches and chairs. Some were arrayed around tables, but others were scattered near the windows. There were only about 8 people in the car, aside from the bartender, and one of them waved frantically to get their attention. Even as Dameron guided Clara toward the rear of the car, Valia bounded past several of the couches to join them. A grin split her lips, and a light flush touched her cheeks as she worked to catch her breath. Glad you made it. I was starting to worry, she said between breaths. I thought you'd be driving back with Rylan, Dameron admitted as he waved Clara toward a vacant cluster of chairs. I thought about it, then I thought you might need a hand. Valia winked at Clara. Did Greg head back last night? Dameron asked. Valia nodded. His youngest has a soccer tournament today. He'll probably have the scores by the time we get back. I'm sure we'll hear all about it tomorrow, Dameron agreed, a fond smile brushing his lips. Hey, if you don't mind, I'm going to take you up on that offer. When Valia nodded, he leaned... Hey, if you don't mind, I'm going to take you up on that offer. When Valia nodded, he leaned down to catch Clara's attention. This is the Queen's Division car. This is the Queen's Division's car. We don't specifically own it, but the Division will often rent compartments like this when its people need to travel. So you should be relatively safe. Order whatever you want to eat, okay? I'll be back in 10 minutes. Again, he waited for Clara to nod, then he turned and picked his way back through the car to a door that lay just beyond the bar. Well, Valia murmured as she plopped into the chair beside Clara's. Now that we're alone, let's have a girl moment. Clara was half afraid Valia was about to launch into a discussion about the birds and the bees. She wasn't sure what else a girl moment might mean, but instead of speaking, Valia pulled a large duffel bag across her lap. She unzipped it, pulled a smaller bag free, and thrust it into Clara's hands. It was a purse. Not a large or fancy one, but it would serve. There wasn't a wallet inside, nor money, but there were plenty of other things that might prove useful, and after a cursory sweep of the contents, Clara was forced to admit they were all girl things. Thank you, she stammered after a moment, not sure what else to say. Don't mention it, Valia insisted, momentarily resting a hand on Clara's arm. Dameron asked me to help set you up for an extended stay. I'm pretty sure I've got some clothes that will fit you. I'll bring them with me to the office tomorrow, but in the meantime, I wanted to make sure you were set with a few things Dameron probably won't think to buy. I just wish there was something I could do for you in return. Color crept into Clara's cheeks again. Dameron has been so kind to me already, and now you. What did I say? Valia chided gently, flashing Clara a grin when she glanced up. We women have to stick together, don't we? I'm sure one day you'll do the same for someone else. That's enough for me. We're friends now, so I hope you know you can trust me with anything you don't feel you can talk to Dameron about. Thank you, Clara said again. Thank you, Clara said, once again at a loss as to how to respond. Valia was obviously a good person, and though they had only just met, Clara found she did trust her. Still, she hoped she never had to keep secrets from Dameron. But it begged the question, why had the voice chosen to send her after him specifically? Why not someone like Valia, who seemed much better equipped to understand her situation? Almost as if her thoughts summoned him, Dameron reappeared through the door near the bar. When he left, his hair had been hanging loose over his shoulders. Now it was bound into the tight braid he wore the day before. He slid his phone into his pocket and navigated the narrow spaces between chairs until he reached the seat across from hers. Sorry about that, he murmured, mustering a tired smile. Just had to make some calls. As the train lurched into motion, Valia retrieved a group of menus from a nearby table and passed them around. Hungry as she was, Clara couldn't help noting the extravagant prices. But when she tried to order the cheapest thing on the menu, Valia quickly overrode her, probing about what she liked to eat before deciding on a fancy Eggs Benedict-like concoction served over a bed of lavish hash browns. The food was good, and so was the coffee. Dameron and Valia chatted while they ate, often engaging Clara in the conversation. Every time one of them turned to her, she worried they would ask serious questions, but they mostly kept the conversation to casual things. Valia seemed to share her love of science fiction and fantasy, though Clara wondered what constituted as fantasy in a world where magic was real. Dameron admitted to an interest in history, especially where military action and tactics were involved. When their stomachs were full and the conversation died... word that doesn't need to be there. When their stomachs were full and the conversation died, Clara turned her attention out the window. The tall buildings of Rock's Rest had long since faded into the background, replaced by a patchwork of open fields occasionally broken by thick strands of forest. Again, she marveled at how similar this world was to her own. If she blocked Dameron out of her peripheral vision, she could imagine she was on a train from Toronto, heading south to Buffalo or Niagara. There was a familiar beauty to the passing countryside. Its wild, untamed spaces had been peeled aside to allow modern transportation to punch through. This is an awkward sentence. There was a familiar beauty to the passing countryside. Its wild, untamed spaces had been peeled aside, allowing modern transportation to punch through, and it had its orderly towns and farmlands, contributing to the overall productivity of the people who lived and worked within. This is one of those sentences where I can't tell if it's bad or if it's just the context I'm reading it in, so I'm gonna back up. When their stomachs were full and the conversation died, Clara turned her attention out the window. The tall buildings of Rock's Rest had long since faded into the background, replaced by a patchwork of open fields, occasionally broken by thick strands of forest. Again, she marveled at how similar this world was to her own. If she blocked Dameron out of her peripheral vision, she could imagine she was on a train from Toronto heading south to Buffalo or Niagara. There was a familiar beauty to the passing countryside. Its wild, untamed spaces had been peeled aside, allowing modern transportation to punch through, and it had its orderly towns and farmlands, contributing to the overall productivity of the people who lived and worked within. There was nothing out of the ordinary about most of the towns either, though occasionally a bright flash or an odd creature would remind Clara that she had long since stepped away from the comfortable and familiar. They had been in motion for about 3 hours when their destination loomed out of the distance. If Rock's Rest could be compared to Toronto, then surely Silver Garden could be compared to New York City. It was a vast and there's not an A there. It doesn't say it was a vast and sprawling. Hang on, let me restart the sprint timer. This will probably be the last sprint for anyone who is doing... I almost tried to drink my microphone. This will probably be the last sprint for anyone who is working on sprints. I'm just going to finish this chapter. I think we have about 3 or 4 pages left. We have about 4 pages left, and then we'll probably have to do a raid so I can go get dinner in the crock pot. But no worries. So if you are writing, I hope you're getting some good words in. Enjoy the last sprint. They had been in motion for about 3 hours when their destination loomed out of the distance. If Roxrest could be compared to Toronto, then surely Silver Garden could be compared to New York City. It was vast and sprawling in a way that was difficult to describe. Its suburbs seemed to huddle up against it, as if they couldn't decide whether they wanted to be counted among the city's population or remain entirely separate. The downtown core rose above the rest, its high-rises like silent sentinels sent to keep watch over civilian activities. Like Roxrest, the streets running parallel to the train boasted an odd mix of old and new. But where the buildings were new, they were ultra-modern, made from steel and glass, molded into fantastic shapes. The population was dense, the number of cars and pedestrians choking the streets impossible to estimate. Parts of the city flattened into classy townships dotted with housing developments and shopping malls. Parts of it almost seemed built in layers, with high walkways connecting high-rises to shops and restaurants so their inhabitants would never need to set foot on the ground if it didn't suit them. And like Roxrest, everything about the city felt both familiar and odd. Every now and then, Claire's eyes fell on something that seemed impossible. A street sign with odd decorations, a billboard advertising a fantastical product, or a business that made no logical sense. She was glad St. Blisbane's wasn't located in the heart of Aruvalia's capital. It was clear she would have been overwhelmed the moment she stepped beyond its sheltered walls. She and Dameron parted ways with Valia when they reached the train station. She hugged them both, whispering a reminder in Claire's ear to contact her if she needed anything. Then they retrieved Dameron's motorcycle from the same centaur who loaded it. When Dameron was satisfied it hadn't been damaged in transit, he flipped the man another gold coin, then bid him farewell. They paused in the parking lot so Dameron could give Clara a primer on what to do while they rode. Your helmet is voice-activated, he explained as he helped her settle it snugly over her head. It was the kind that completely encased her face. Should completely encase her head, not just her face. Not just your face. Gotta protect that skull. Your helmet is voice-activated, he explained as he helped her settle it snugly over her head. It was the kind that completely encased her head. That's why I changed it from head. Maybe it was just as he helped her settle it snugly. In position. Your helmet is voice-activated, he explained as he helped her settle it snugly in position. It was the kind that completely encased her head, though he had lifted the visor to offer his explanation. If you want to talk to me, just say my name. You can adjust the music by saying music up or down or whatever. Keep your legs away from the exhaust ports. He indicated them. Hold on to me if you like, but make sure you lean into the turns. She repeated a clipped version of the instructions and he nodded with satisfaction. She was a bit nervous about the coming ride. Not because she worried about damaging Dameron's bike, but because all of her previous rides had been in the countryside, away from crowded streets and high speeds. Her heart lurched when the bike jerked into motion and she instinctively wrapped her arms around Dameron's waist, pressing as close to his back as she could cling. She was so scared it took a few moments to realize he might not be comfortable with her crushing proximity, but he lifted one gloved hand and gently squeezed her wrist, perhaps reassuring her it was all right. He must have been familiar with this part of the city because he eased them onto the highway without once getting stuck in traffic. Moving at high speeds on the back of his bike was exhilarating, but even more terrifying than the side streets. I don't think that sentence makes sense. I think I know what I was trying to say, but I don't think it makes sense in the context of how I said it. Mine never makes sense. Your sentences. Sometimes I can tell what I'm trying to say, but I feel like I've said it in a very clunky way. In this case, I feel like I'm trying to say that the highway is scary because it's fast and there's a lot of traffic, but I don't feel like that's what I said. I feel like I said something else, and I need to change it to make it make more sense. I think I should just change it to, but the high speeds in traffic were terrifying. I think I fixed it. I fixed it, created another problem, fixed that, created another problem, fixed that, and now I think it works. I'm usually victim to my own pace, and I'll try to force certain lengths or phrasing for the vibes until the horse is beaten. No, I feel you. I'm a big believer in that there should be one concept for each sentence, right? So everything in a sentence should relate to everything else in the sentence. But there's a real temptation sometimes to try and force as much information into each sentence as possible. I mean, as writers, we're kind of trained to do that, right? To try and tell the story in as few words or sometimes as few sentences as possible. But then you sometimes create this tendency to have really long, clunky phrasing. And I'm not one of those people who hates long sentences. A really good long sentence, excellent. I'll take it. But it can be really hard sometimes to make sure that each concept is clearly relating to all the others without, like, what I feel like I was trying to say was, it was fun to go fast, but it was also scary. But what I said was like, it was fun to go fast, but also like the rest of the sentence just didn't make sense as it originally was. So yeah, no, I get it. I feel like I said that really poorly, but I get it. Sometimes you want to express something in a certain way and you want it to flow in a certain way, and sometimes it just doesn't, no matter what you do. And I have in the past, like, rewritten a sentence 20 times and then just given it up and deleted it and written something else because I'm like, it's just not, it's not doing the thing. So I have to do it differently. I was trying to explain to a friend a while ago that our job is that every single sentence and word structure, device, etc. is for the purpose of getting to a point, whether it's to read sentence 2, drive a plot point home, or heck, the last sentence of a story. He didn't believe me. No, that's 100% accurate. Like, and I think the reason why writing is so hard, we were talking earlier about how writing is hard. Like, I think one of the reasons why it's so hard is that each sentence is pulling double or triple duty. Like, you're never just writing a sentence. You're never just describing a character or describing a scene setting. Like, every sentence has multiple meanings, whether it's, you know, like, yes, it might be to paint a picture of what this place looks like or what this character thinks, but you're also setting up something for later. Like, sometimes you're doing foreshadowing, sometimes you're doing subtext, sometimes you're, you know, like, you're always infusing something extra into every sentence. And so it's not just critically important for each sentence to make sense and be clear. I mean, those are critically important things. But if a sentence is clear and isn't actually adding anything to the story, then why is it there, right? So there's so many things to keep track of in every single scene or every single sentence or paragraph that, yeah, it can be overwhelming to try and make it do that. And sometimes you get a really great description and it's serving that part of its purpose really well, but maybe it's slowing down the pacing and detracting from the overall story. And then you have to make a very difficult decision of how much of this do I keep? Do I cut it? Like, what do I do with this beautiful thing that I wrote that is actually not helping? So yeah, no, I think that people who don't write creatively or who don't write formally, don't understand like how much thought goes into each different word or sentence choice. Pie, what are you doing? Pie, what are you doing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hydrates. Thank you, Pie. In my visual novel, no real spoilers for writers because you'd pick it up anyway, but in very separate chapters, I describe someone with the exact same sentence structure as their father for alignment. Yeah, that makes sense. And it gives me goosebumps, but that linearity might be lost on folks. Yeah, no, like, but sometimes you do that. You put little things in there. You put little details in there for the people who are going to be detail oriented and catch it. The people who don't catch it, it won't detract anything from their experience. But for the people who catch it, it's going to enhance their experience, right? So you do that. I'm summoning the biblical flood. Thanks, Pie. Let's have 5 hydrates. 1, 2. It's like trying to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop. 3, 4, and 1 more. Thanks, Pie. Oh my goodness. But I love little details like that, AB Coffee. I seriously, like, when I find a writer has done something like that, I appreciate the hell out of it. And it's like, yeah, 1 person or like 2 people out of 100 might catch that, but it's still worth it. Pie. All right. Her heart lurched when the bike jerked into motion and she instinctively wrapped her arms around Domeran's waist, pressing as close to his back as she could cling. She was so scared it took a few moments to realize he might not be comfortable with her crushing proximity, but he lifted one gloved hand and gently squeezed her wrist, perhaps reassuring her it was all right. He must have been familiar with this part of the city because he eased them onto the highway without once getting stuck in traffic. Moving at high speeds on the back of his bike was exhilarating, but the traffic... no. I mentioned traffic there, and... vehicles. Lol. He must have been familiar with this part of the city because he eased them onto the highway without once getting stuck in traffic. Moving at high speeds on the back of his bike was exhilarating, but the vehicles zipping by on both sides were terrifying. Still, when it was clear her presence wasn't going to make the ride difficult, Clara relaxed, eased her grip on Domeran, and took in the sights. They were well into the downtown core before Domeran pulled into a mall parking lot. Clara hadn't expected a pit stop, but she was grateful. Domeran didn't offer her an entirely new wardrobe, but he did tell her to get whatever essentials she needed. She settled for 2 clean changes of clothing. Hers were starting to chafe after she was forced to put them back on this morning. A pack of underwear and socks and a few decent sports bras. Thanks to Valia, she didn't have to ask Domeran for anything that might potentially embarrass him, and she was grateful for that. Still, she cringed every time he drew his credit card from his wallet and passed it across the counter to a cashier. Even if the division was willing to compensate him for all her expenses, she was still proving a burden to someone somewhere. She squeezed the purse Valia gave her and pledged that she would pay it all back somehow, someday. She had just resolved not to let Domeran spend another cent on her when they passed the salon. They passed a salon. The is generally for familiar things, and A is generally for unfamiliar things. This is an unfamiliar salon, so it should be A. Tiny itty bitty little detail, but sometimes important. She had just resolved not to let Dameron spend another cent on her when they passed a salon, freezing Clara in her tracks. She grabbed the ragged curls bunched across her shoulders and thought about how nice it was to have short, easy-to-manage hair instead of this unruly mass. She had control of so little of her current situation. Shouldn't she at least look the way she wanted? By the time she turned puppy eyes in Dameron's direction, he had already shifted his trajectory, saying, and said simply... By the time she turned puppy eyes in Dameron's direction, he had already shifted his trajectory and said simply, go. He waited politely nearby until the cut was finished, then he paid and led her back outside. Clara reveled in the short bob she had chosen. Clara reveled in the short bob she chose, enjoying the play of fresh night air on the back of her neck. When they returned to Dameron's bike, he stowed her purchases in a nifty compartment on the back that was apparently enchanted to hold more on the inside than it appeared to have space for on the outside. It was easier to adjust to the motorcycle when they left the mall, and she didn't panic cling to Dameron for the rest of the drive. He lived in an apartment high-rise in a high-class neighborhood adjacent to the downtown core. It was the kind of place Claire didn't think she could ever live, too close to everything, too happening at all hours of the day. But when they entered the lobby, the sounds of traffic faded, replaced by the soft circulation of air. Dameron's apartment was fairly high up the building, but the elevator trip was relatively short. He had a corner unit, which Clara guessed made it a little bigger than most. While he was twisting the key in the lock, a door on the other side of the hallway slid open and a squat old woman peeked through the opening. She wore glasses so thick her eyes almost appeared to occupy a pair of bubbles attached to her face, but she had a friendly smile that peeled back the deep wrinkles. I'm gonna take that almost out. Random. Her eyes appeared, not almost appeared. Dameron's apartment was fairly high up the building, but the elevator trip was relatively short. He had a corner unit, which Clara guessed made it a little bigger than most. While he was twisting his key in the lock, a door on the other side of the hallway slid open and a squat old woman peeked through the opening. I'm gonna get rid of that too. Pardon me while I just read this paragraph 50 times. Dameron's apartment was fairly high up the building, but the elevator trip was relatively short. He had a corner unit, which Clara guessed made it a little bigger than most. While he was twisting his key in the lock, a door on the other side of the hallway slid open and a squat old woman peeked through. She wore glasses so thick her eyes appeared to occupy a pair of bubbles attached to her face, but she had a friendly smile that peeled back the deep wrinkles of her face. I said face like 50 times. No. Sorry. I forgot how punctuation works, apparently. Dameron's apartment was fairly high up the building, but the elevator trip was relatively short. He had a corner unit, which Clara guessed made it a little bigger than most. While he was twisting his key in the lock, a door on the other side of the hallway slid open and a squat old woman peeked through. She wore glasses so thick her eyes appeared to occupy a pair of bubbles, but she had a friendly smile that peeled back the deep wrinkles of her face. Dameron Lorcasp, is that you? She called. Dameron paused in the act of opening the door and turned to offer her a smile. Good evening, Mrs. Mullins. How are you? Pleased by the friendly response, Mrs. Mullins shuffled through her doorway. She was wearing a fuzzy pink robe and matching slippers. I'm fine, dear. Thanks for asking. It's so nice to see you. You're so rarely home. Dameron chuckled. What can I say? I'm a workaholic. Clara glanced between the half-open door, Dameron, and the old woman, wondering if she should duck inside before someone started asking awkward questions. She couldn't tell if this was a nosy neighbor situation or if the two of them were actually friends. You must have been down in Rock's Rest, yes, the old woman went on, oblivious to Clara's discomfort. I thought they mentioned you on the news. That was me, Dameron confirmed with a shrug. Anything exciting? That was me, Dameron confirmed with a shrug. Anything exciting happen while I was gone? The old woman folded her hands in front of her while she considered his question. I heard from Sarah Johnston yesterday. Do you remember her? Without waiting for an answer, the old woman swept on. Well, she's going to have a baby. Isn't that exciting? Absolutely. Will you congratulate her from me the next time you see her? The old woman beamed, evidently overjoyed to be granted this task. Of course I will. Well, I imagine you must be hungry. I can smell the road on you and your friend. Go and get yourselves some dinner, dear, and knock if you need anything. Good night, Mrs. Mullins. Dahmerin waved and waited until the old woman had shuffled back into her apartment before he ushered Clara into his. I don't think this needs me there either. Good night, Mrs. Mullins. Dahmerin waved and waited until the old woman shuffled back into her apartment before he ushered Clara into his. Friend of yours, Clara murmured as he closed the door behind them. She wanted to know if it was safe to engage the old woman or if she should run for the hills the next time she saw her. To engage with the old woman. Friend of yours, Clara murmured as he closed the door behind them. She wanted to know if it was safe to engage with the old woman or if she should run for the hills the next time she saw her. Mrs. Mullins? Dahmerin sounded surprised. I'm not sure, really. She's lived there forever, and she knows everyone who lives in the building. Sweetest old woman you'll ever meet. Probably safe to engage with, then. Satisfied, Clara took a moment to examine Dahmerin's apartment. It was smaller than she expected. Much smaller than his ex-boyfriend's. It had an open-concept kitchen, living room, and dining area, but the combined space would have fit into Kira's living room. The kitchen could best be described as modern, with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. Dahmerin didn't appear to have a dining table, though. Instead, several stools were pushed under the bare... Dahmerin didn't appear to have a dining table, though. Instead, several stools were pushed under the bare L shape of an extended countertop, which evidently served as a bar. The wall across from the kitchen sported a well-worn navy blue couch that sat perpendicular to a pair of equally worn brown chairs. There were a set of shelves against the wall across from the chairs, with a TV in the center and haphazard stacks of DVDs shoved into the rest. If Clara had to describe Dahmerin's apartment in a single phrase, she would have called it organized chaos. It wasn't messy. In fact, it was downright tidy, but she didn't think Dahmerin would know where to find things if he was asked to locate something. The decor was Spartan, the furniture clearly chosen based on practical function rather than how it looked, but it had a cozy feeling to it. Whatever else Dahmerin's apartment was, he was obviously comfortable here. Much like when he entered Kira's apartment, he set his swords beside the door and removed his combat boots. Then he motioned for Clara to make herself at home. The second door on the right side of the hallway is the guest room. The first door is the bathroom. I'm across the hallway from the bathroom. Towels? Towels are behind the door across from your room. Let me know if you need anything aside from dinner, which I will order presently. Dahmerin pulled his phone from his pocket, then hesitated. What would you like? I'm assuming you probably don't want pizza again. From the way he said it, Clara guessed he'd eat pizza every night and not think anything of it, but she would rather appreciate some diversity. Unfortunately, the next best takeout that came to her mind was Chinese, and she doubted they had that here. I'm kind of worried we have different names for everything else, she admitted after a few moments of strongly considering telling him to just order more pizza. To her relief, Dahmerin laughed. I probably should have thought of that. Here. He moved to a drawer in the kitchen and returned with a handful of folded menus. He spread them on the countertop and motioned for Clara to peruse them. After a brief discussion of the options, they settled on something that was quite similar, at least by description, to Chinese food. When it arrived, Dahmerin lifted a small box of pastry from the top of the bag and journeyed across the hall to offer it to Mrs. Mullins. Clara stayed behind, but heard the woman's grateful exclamations. She worried Dahmerin was going to want another of his serious conversations when they finished eating. Instead, he settled at the countertop with a small laptop, perhaps hoping to catch up on work. Sooner or later, though, he was going to want to know more about her. Clara hadn't decided yet if she should admit to speaking with a strange voice in her head, but she didn't know how she was going to explain her escape from St. Blisbane's otherwise. And if the cryptic speaker didn't tell her what it wanted from her soon, she might be caught in an unpleasant situation. For now, at least, she felt safe and comfortable. Feel free to entertain yourself as you like, Dahmerin said, motioning to the wall of DVDs. Just don't plan on staying up too late. My duties start early and I'll have to take you with me. Forcing the image of a police interrogation out of her head, Clara nodded. She perused his DVD collection but didn't recognize any of the titles. Ultimately, she decided to slink off to bed and give Dahmerin a little privacy. When he stepped outside for a cigarette, she slipped into the guest room. She spent the time before she drifted to sleep prodding the voice in her head, but she never got it to answer. Whew, we done. Lore details. Is pizza in Aruvalia timeline universe the same as our pizza? Like pizza balls? in the Doctor Strange movie, these are important questions. Pizza in Aruvalia at the time when Clara is visiting is like pizza here. I basically figured that they have most of the same cuisine that we have, but they would all call it mostly different names. It's never directly stated in the story. This is tangentially related to this. It's never specifically stated in the story, but there is a scene where Dameron tries to talk to Clara, and he switches from what they call common, which is like the shared vernacular of the kingdom, to Elven. And not only did Clara understand him, but she spoke to him in Elven without realizing that they had switched languages. Clara doesn't realize it yet, but she has a magical connection to someone who is basically able to translate languages for her. So she understands when Dameron says pizza, it is basically translated for her so that she understands what it is. They probably have a different word for what it is in Aruvalia, but since we're understanding that the words are all being translated into our language, into Clara's language, the concept is the same. Hey, Anne, how are you? Enjoy your lurk. We're gonna be raiding someone soon, but I appreciate you dropping by, and I appreciate that you'll be on our raid train with us. So yeah, pizza is basically the same in Aruvalia. They would have things like calzones and flatbreads and all that kind of stuff. Where it came from would be different, because obviously Italy isn't a thing in Aruvalia. So whoever decided to put sauce and toppings on pizza, like the history of it, where it comes from, what type of toppings you put on it, all that kind of stuff would be different. I need to come into your room to grab my Surface. That's fine. You guys will see Ghost walk past in a minute. Never fear. Don't panic. It's just Ghost Pepper walking through. Good, just been playing some Call of the Lamb. Me too, Anne! Oh my gosh, I know you're trying to lurk, but what do you think of that game? Because I think it's so good. Gonna be going to my grandmother's house to go grab my novels that just came in so I can wrap them up and ship them. Nice! That's awesome. I'm supposed to have some novels coming for me today, my own novels. I'm just waiting for the delivery truck to get here. I love it too. It's so creepy, but it's like cute but creepy. Like the whole atmosphere of the game is super creepy, but yet everything is adorable. It's perfect. But yeah, so the history of pizza is different, but it looks like the pizza you and I know. And like in this scene, you can order what is essentially Thai food, say. But it would be called something else, and it would come from a different region, and it might have slightly different spices and slightly different history, but it's basically similar, because the idea is that Aruvalia is a world similar to us, where they have similar development of technology, and there he is. There's Ghost Pepper. You can come say hi.
No. Who's in chat?
Anne's here. AB Coffee is here. Pi is lurking. There he is.
Don't point that at me.
That's my lovely husband, Ghost Pepper. He's getting ready for D&D. Hopefully that answers your question, AB Coffee. If you want me to give you some more specific details, let me know, because I want it to be worth the lore redeem. I haven't exactly matched like different regions to different specific cultures and cuisines yet, but I am planning on doing that. The last 3 books, most of the series has taken place in Aruvalia so far. In the second and third trilogy, we start to see the countries surrounding Aruvalia. But I'm hoping for the last 3 books, which I won't be writing for a while yet. I'm going to write books 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to start those this year, but it won't be until next year in like September that I start working on the last 3 books. But I'm hoping in the last 3 books to sort of open up the map and start showing more of that information, start showing like different cultures and where some of those connections are made. So it is something that's on my to-do list. But for now, we just sort of have this idea that they have all these things, but they have different names. And they are translated for Clara by this voice in her head. Awesome. It's a good question. It's the sort of thing that I think about, because when I wrote this scene originally, I was like, I got to the point where she was about to say Chinese food, and I was like, wait, China doesn't exist in this world. How is she going to communicate the concept of what we consider to be Chinese food to someone who might not have any grounding in that concept? But luckily, Dameron is the kind of person who doesn't cook, so he just has a bunch of fast food menus and takeout menus in his drawer, and he can just pull them out and look at them whenever. Who tickets me? Bye, love you! Ghost texted me to say he's leaving. He's going to D&D at a friend's house. Our husband, yes. Our husband is going to D&D. That's why he walked through the picture. So yeah, that is 3 chapters for this morning. I think that's a pretty good amount of edits. Let's see how many words were different at the end of all that fiddling. So I did actually change a few sentences significantly for this one. It was 4,709. Now it's 4,692. So we've got like 14 words difference there. 692. Basically at the end of the day, I mark all this stuff down, but basically at the end of the day, I'm going to be looking at how many words I edited versus how many words were changed. Because otherwise there just won't be any word count at all. So I take like 10% of the words and use that as my word count. It's cute and creepy. I'm gonna decorate my cult area out in Halloween decor. That's such a good idea. I haven't been able to start decorating really yet. I'm trying to get everyone houses instead of sleeping bags. I'm still really early on in the game. I've only beaten the first major boss. But I just unlocked the outhouse, so my people will hopefully stop pooping in the middle of a field. Welcome back, Peter. I hope you are having a good day. We are going to start looking for someone to raid. I'm sorry, I feel like that was really loud. We're going to start looking for someone to raid because I got to go throw dinner in the crock pot and eat some food. So let's see who is around. Yes, I guess I should mention it one last time for anyone who wasn't here earlier in stream. The last book in Eternity's Empire is out. If you're reading that series, you can get the ending. If you haven't started the series, check my Amazon store on Friday because the first book will be free and you can download it and give it a try and see if you want to read the rest of the series. And you won't have to wait because the end is finally here. So that dropped today. Check that out. I'm super excited. It doesn't feel real that it's ending, but it is. Well, I shouldn't even say ending. It's finished. I wrote the whole thing, so let's see who is on. Speaking of Cult of the Lamb, some of my friends are playing it. Let's see who is writing. Ooh, did Supernatural just come online? We have not rated Supernatural in a while, and she hangs out on our stream a ton. Like, she's always lurking, she's always supporting. And I keep catching her at the end of her streams. So let's pop over there and see if we can encourage her to get through whatever she's working on. I'm clicking on all the wrong things. Can we get a Discord notification for Friday? Yes, I will post in the Discord. It's going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So don't worry if you forget on Friday. There's going to be 4 days to grab it. And I will make sure that I post, if not Friday, on Saturday to let everybody know to check it out with a link and all that. For those of us with terrible short-term memory loss, yes, absolutely. And if you follow me on Twitter or Facebook, I'll be posting notifications. So no worries. I'm not expecting everyone to remember something that's a week away. I just want to give everyone a heads up in case someone is thinking about buying it today. If you still want to buy it today, absolutely go for it. Like, I appreciate the support. But just so you know, it will be on sale on Friday for free. So if you want to grab it then and give it a read and give it a try and see if it's your jam, I totally get that too, 100%. So I just want people to be able to make an informed choice if they're looking at it. But if you've already read the first part of the series, the final part of the series is here. I'm really excited about it. There may have been some tears involved in writing the ending. And I'm so happy that everybody gets to see what actually happens now. So check that out. There it is. And if you do the new release command, that will pop up the link, and then you can just check out the series from there. Let us drop in on Supernatural. It looks like she's setting up, our friend Comf has something similar to this, where you can actually like add something to the to-do list, and then it will help you keep track of it. And she's got the Pomodoro timer running. So if you guys are working on sprints, you'll be able to keep working on that and just say hey to Supernatural, because she's awesome and amazing. Before I go, I have been promising to start a brand new project on stream. That is finally happening tomorrow. I'm going to be here around 2:30 PST, unless something comes up, but hopefully it won't. We're going to be taking a look at NovelPad, which is a program that some members of the community really like. So I'm going to be testing out some of the features on that, and we're going to be doing the whole world building process. We're going to start with characters, because all my stories come from characters, so I have kind of a list of characters that I want to flesh out and develop and start sort of figuring out how they fit into this world. The tentative working title for this project is Everyone's Child. So we're going to be starting character creation for Everyone's Child. There's going to be Pinterest. There's going to be a lot of muttering to myself. It's my first time doing something like this on stream, so we'll see how it goes. But I wanted to give you guys a bit of a look into my process for how I get things started. So I have very bare bones plans for this project. So it's going to be a lot of figuring things out on stream. So that's going to be happening hopefully tomorrow afternoon and Wednesday morning. But as I mentioned on Discord, if something comes up, I might have to just push to later in the week. So keep an eye on the Discord for notifications. But hopefully we'll be back tomorrow afternoon with the first part of that. We will be such a bad influence if you're starting it on stream. I mean, I have a vague idea of what I want the story to be. I think I'm responsible enough to be able to say, yes, this fits the concept, and no, this doesn't fit the concept. But yeah, I mean, if you want to try to influence the story, feel free. My voice will echo through the chat. I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to input. I mean, it's a very vague idea. But I have to get it sorted out because I want to start writing it in September. So I kind of need to figure out if I don't want to completely seat in my pants this, which sometimes I do, but I want to at least have character ideas. So, yeah, if I don't want to completely, totally seat of my pants it, I need to get stuff together and figure out what I'm doing. September is a week away. I want to start it in the second half of September. So I'm hoping, I think, to start it September 19th, the week of September 19th. So a month from now, essentially. Yeah, I know. When did this year happen? While we were not paying attention, evidently. Let's start the raid timer, because speaking of time that has happened while not paying attention, it's 1:15 and I gotta go get dinner in the crock pot so we can eat tonight. So let us raid Supernatural. Yeah, that's exactly where we're going, is Supernatural, because we haven't gotten to raid her in a while, and she hangs out in here a lot, so she deserves our love. If you have my emotes, please feel free to use them. They will work for you. Stream Elements is obviously not subscribed to me. And I'm too lazy to set it up so that Stream Elements uses me as the chatter. That's on the to-do list for the future. But use any emotes for the raid that make you happy, because it's more important that we spread love than what emotes we use. And Supernatural is super cool, and one of the people who first introduced me to Novelpad, which we're going to be testing out tomorrow. So check her out, give her a follow, stick around for some sprints if you like, and please, all of you, take care. I know I say this at the end of every stream, but you're so awesome. It always amazes me that I turn on my stream and people come say hi and hang out and are excited about what I'm doing. So thank you so much. Final Pie, thank you. AB Coffee, thank you. Halo Banshee, Safa, Sapphic Panic, everyone who hung out. I know I'm missing some people. Woof, Ghost Pepper, thank you. And I hope to see all of you tomorrow, and if not, I'll see you again soon. Take care, all you lovely people.